This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Happy Friday and welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis with you. And wow, what a game last night at Canada Life Centre as the Jets break a 2-game losing streak at home and win a really, really entertaining and intense game last night against the Nashville Predators, and now hit the road for back-to-back games this weekend on the West Coast against the Vancouver Canucks and the Seattle Kraken. We are going to be all over it. Scott Billeck and Ken Wiebe first up, but over the course of the next hour plus in the program. Then we're actually going to head to the West Coast and chat with our pal Rob Simpson, who, of course, is running both Vancouver Hockey Insider and Seattle Hockey Insider for a little bit of intel on the two teams that the Jets are going to be facing this weekend. We'll get Lee Hacksaw Hamilton coming in to tee up a big weekend in the National Football League with 3 games on Saturday. Make sure you get your fantasy lineup set. And then we'll finish it off with another marble race on a Friday afternoon. Not only our regular Friday marble race, but a qualifying race for the Consolidated Supply and Winnipeg Sports Talk Marbles Tournament of Champions. I guess we are technically halfway through our qualifying races. We've done 6. We'll do another one today. And then every day next week, make sure you're with us in YouTube live around 2:45 when we open up registration for your chance to get in and qualify for the final race on December 30th, where we will be giving away a pair of 2023 Bomber season tickets courtesy of our great friends at Consolidated Supply. So a packed show. Welcome, everyone. And again, as I've been mentioning all week long, podcast listeners, especially next week, if you maybe have a day or two off, make sure to put a little reminder in your phone around 2:45 to jump in here, get a marble in the race for your chance to win those Bomber season tickets. Of course, huge thanks to Consolidated Supply for making this happen. And a big thank you to all the sponsors that make this show happen, including our friends at Princess Auto, Coolbet Canada, Not Auto Corp, the Nick and Nicky DQ group. Saw fired up DQ Nick after the game last night. After that big win, of course, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Canadian Club Whiskey, Culligan Water, F Apparel, Royal Sports, Manitoba Battery, Vita Health Fresh Market, and of course, Wallace & Wallace, as we continue to welcome your submissions for the Unsung Hero in the community at Unsung Hero at winnipegsportstalk.com. Michael Remis, get in here. What a game last night.
I'm in a great mood. That almost had a playoff atmosphere. Maybe not quite. I could be going a bit over the top here, but definitely had the feelings of a big divisional rival game where the Jets need to get back on track. They played so well. It would have been disappointing if it ended, they got goal lead and Saros led them to the win. But Kyle Connor in overtime, that guy is money. I really thought Josh Morrissey had a shot of his 3rd overtime winner. On a breakaway?
Yeah, he had a shot. It was a clear-cut breakaway. He absolutely did and was so close to scoring.
Yeah, I thought he had it. So, great game. I think it really, you can talk about fighting and hockey and its relevance, but definitely brought out the building was fired up for that Lowry-Jeannot fight. I think really woke everyone up and said, hey, this is a big divisional rival game. You got to be on top of things here. And very disappointed to see Nate Schmidt injured. He was placed on IR today, and Billy Hainala called up on emergency basis.
Yeah, so, we'll get to all of that. And that's interesting with Hainala because Hainala hasn't been playing for the Moose. He's been out as of late. And, of course, Kyle Capobianco wasn't skating yesterday, and we thought he might be one of the Jets that is somewhat under the weather. I'll just quickly fill you in on my night last night before we get in. I was emceeing the Hockey Helps the Homeless Pro Draft across the street from the arena at the Met. So unfortunately, I wasn't in the building for the majority of the game. I was keeping a bit of an eye on it by my phone, and I'd pop out and look at the television on the other side. And two things stood out right off the bat, Reem. The puck always drops around 7:06, 7:07. I checked my phone at 7:15, and it said there was 11 minutes left in the first period. Mm-hmm. And talking to some friends, I guess the opening faceoff went 7 or 8 minutes. And our pal Balls, who runs game production, told me afterwards that might be the longest opening series of action, the longest off of opening faceoff in a long time. So it got going right off the bat. And unfortunately for the Winnipeg Jets, Connor Hellebuyck let in the first shot. And this was not a goal that I think he would like to have back. And we talked about, a sort of an underwhelming performance by Helly in the game against Vegas and the incredible standard that he set. Well, listen, don't worry about 37 because he shut the door the rest of the way. And there really was some phenomenal goaltending, especially on the Nashville end with the amount of pucks that the Winnipeg Jets threw at the Nashville net, Reem.
It's funny, I said on the show, UC Saros has been amazing at home, but his numbers on the road were not great. But I did note small sample size, so you saw the pendulum swing back to the middle, Huss. I mean, he was awesome, especially in the third period on the Jets' power play, looking so strong there after that puck over glass. But how many shots? I got the shots. 39 of 41. Hellebuyck stopped 25 of 26. I mean, just a fantastic game back and forth. The Jets, I mean, you're really happy to see them get the 2 points. You'd like to see it not be a 3-point game, but hey, you got the 2. And, again, divisional rival, break the losing skid. You look at the high danger chances here, Huss, at 5-on-5, Jets 15-10, scoring chances 26-15. Out Corsied them 63% of the shot attempts. So a great game for the Jets and ended up with the win. And I think people went home really happy. And I did see some comments here in chat that they had a great time at the game as well.
Speaking of chat, I got to give a shout out to Isha Boy Bruce, who just said he copped a couple of the Winnipeg Sports Talk lids from Royal yesterday. The black with the logo and the bomber one. Too sweet. Bruce, thanks so much. Yeah, all the new hats and the new era toques available at Royal Sports as well. If you're not able to get to Royal, check out our website at winnipegsportstalk.com/store. So Remo, the game, as I mentioned, I was sort of across the street. Luckily enough, the program went quickly and I was able to get into the building for the final 11 minutes and overtime. And listen, the crowd was great last night. I mean, I know we're not getting the full 15,000, but I kind of thought I'd be able to sneak in and quickly find a seat. That was not the case. But man, I mean, the intensity of that third period, knowing that, there were some nerves in the building, I think, considering what had happened in the previous 2 games on the homestand. And that was a Nashville team that, was hanging on at times, but also was very dangerous. But the atmosphere in the building heading into overtime and when Kyle Connor scored that winning goal was a great way to end what was a night filled with energy. And hard not to talk about, the way the game ended. And you've already alluded to this without talking about, first of all, Tanner Jeannot's hit on Nate Schmidt and the corresponding response from one Adam Lowry. We'll hear from Bones in a minute, but I know you were watching it live. What was your take on the hit?
Yeah, I seem to be in the minority that I thought it was a clean hit. I thought it was just really, really hard body check. Reminded me of Bufflin on Mark Stone. I will say Schmidt is in a tough spot. He's battling one guy behind the net, and Jeannot comes in. Schmidt really didn't see him coming to the last second. I think he ducks down a little to protect himself. I have seen some screenshots where maybe he got it in the head, but I don't know. It looked like he was grabbing his shoulder on the ground. I thought it was a clean hit. The team seemed to think so as well. I don't think there was going to be any supplemental discipline. Really unfortunate. It was just a really hard body check, and you hope Schmidt's not out too long term. We're not going to have any update today. They're traveling out west, and we'll probably hear something tomorrow. But Schmidt's a really happy guy, fun guy in the dressing room. You don't want to see him down. If people want to weigh in, chat, I can put in a poll. But I thought it was just an unfortunate result there.
Well, you know what? Let's hear from the guy that knows. By the way, I'm loving to see all the bones emotes in the chat, Remo. That is a great addition to the YouTube features for members right now. And again, once again, a big thanks to Mitch and Dodgeball on Twitch for all those gifted memberships for folks that can now use that bones emoji. Speaking of bones, let's hear from the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets. And right off the bat, he was asked about the hit on Nate Schmidt and the response from one of their leaders, Adam Lowry.
Sorry, one sec. Let me just restart. Sorry, Hass, I wasn't ready. You caught me off guard.
Oh, sorry. I thought you knew we were getting
yeah. Let me just, I got to set it so you can hear and everyone can hear. I'll just edit. So, okay.
Yeah, okay. No problem. We're good to go. Okay, so here's Bones on the hit on Schmidt and the response from Adam Lowry.
Listen, that's hockey. He didn't see him coming. He's a big guy. He took it, Nate didn't see him coming clearly because he was fending off one guy, and this guy comes out of nowhere, and it's incredible leadership by Adam. I love what he did. You have to do that, especially in our rink. He's a great teammate, and like we always say, they take a run at one of us, they take a run at all of us, and we're all going to respond. Adam was the guy who responded.
Okay, who doesn't get fired up listening to Bones say, you take a run at one of us, you take a run at all of us? I mean, that is, listen, it's obviously playing very well in the room. The guy that did step up for his teammate was Adam Lowry. He spoke after the game on the hit on Nate Schmidt and the fight that followed with Tanner Jeannot.
Well, I don't necessarily think it's a dirty hit or anything like that, right? But, anytime you see a teammate go down on a hard check, and I'll be honest, I'm probably trying to make that same check, if roles are reversed, right? So you kind of want to defend your teammate, you kind of want to settle things down and get the focus back on playing, and a lot of respect to Jeannot for answering the bell. He certainly doesn't have to, so yeah, you just want to show up for your teammates.
You feel like your fight did spark the team?
I don't know. I think we were, having a decent first period. I think it's one of those things, though, that, sometimes, it kind of makes the guys know that you're going to stick together. And, if it's going to be a physical game, some guys are going to answer the bell. And Central Division, you kind of want to set the tone and get, maybe got the building going a little bit and, carried on from there.
Well, that was a heavyweight tilt. It certainly wasn't as long as, for instance, the Tyrell Bauer one we've been talking about all week from the AHL Manitoba Moose Calgary Wrangler game last week. But it was a big one, and Adam Lowry continuing to show why he is one of the pillars of this team, certainly from a leadership perspective. We've got some more from Bones, but let's go to number 5. This is Rick Bowness on Adam Lowry and his contribution last night and stepping up for a teammate.
PK was great tonight. They did a fantastic job, and Adam's the ringleader on that for sure. He's a ringleader in a lot of things out there. Adam was outstanding tonight, with him without the puck. Penalty kill, he did a good job in the power play when that unit got out there, and clearly, helped in the overtime goal, and which he deserved, getting an assist on that. So, just a fantastic effort from Adam.
All right, there is Rick Bowness speaking about Adam Lowry's contribution. And I'll say this, Remo, remember the conversations about all the questions about what the heck Adam Lowry was doing out in overtime at the, sort of the beginning of the season? Not only has he been very effective in OT and really from a face-off winning and a puck possession standpoint, but that goal last night by Kyle Connor was another example of Adam Lowry using his body positioning and angles to win a puck battle, get the puck, and get it to a guy that can light the lamp and finish the game. And I like the fact that Bowness mentioned his contributions in overtime as well as what everyone else was talking about, and that was going up against one of the tougher dudes in the league.
Yeah, just on the hit, I see Running Man in chat says Jets fans need to go crazy like Montreal fans did after the Shifley hit on Evans and try to get a suspension, because I do see some similarities with that hit as well. So you never know. Player safety. Some people saying there was head contact. Some people saying it was in the shoulder. But we will move on and talk about Adam Lowry. Has career year in points per game, 0.66. He's got 19 points in 29 games. He's going to obliterate his career high of 29. He's 10 away. I mean, what a season he's having. He's really stepped it up since Vesalainen was moved off his line halfway through the year last year. But over that overtime line, I mean, it was Lowry with Brendan Dillon, who's on because Nate Schmidt is hurt, and Cole Perfetti, who got his first 3-on-3 action, and Cole Perfetti looking pretty smart out there. And it was Adam, I thought everyone in overtime, just the way they moved the puck, the crisscrossing, the dropping the passes, the finding lanes over and over again. And finally it was Adam Lowry driving it to, entering the zone, drops it to Kyle Connor, cuts to the middle. Anytime Kyle Connor shoots, I think it's got a chance to go. And he took a lot of shots yesterday, a career high 11 for him. Not a franchise record. The franchise record's actually 16 by Marian Hossa, which I had to look up. But hey, it trickled in, and a huge win there for the Jets. And yeah, Adam Lowry, I mean, he played overtime, plays on the PK, he's putting up points, he's answering the bell. This guy doesn't wear a letter on his chest, but definitely one of the leaders on his team. Oh, sorry, doesn't wear the C. Doesn't wear the C. My bad.
Listen, we'll talk a lot more about Adam Lowry and his contributions in the season he's having with Billeck and Wiebe when they join us. Let's get to number 2, Remo, because interestingly enough, Mikey Eyssimont actually played the least of the forwards at 7:46. David Gustafsson was in at 9. Kevin Stenlund was in at 10. And you had a couple big numbers. Dubois over 20 minutes, and Kyle Connor with all that overtime play, 26-48, and Mark Scheifele 25. That being said, all the lines look pretty good, and Bones talked about how his goal of having his lines look similar was there last night, and all the units were pretty cohesive.
There was a much more consistent connection between our defense and our F3. You saw that tonight. They were much more connected, and we spent a lot of time in their zone. I think again, their goalie made some big saves, so that was a better effort all the way around. We didn't give up much at all. A lot of some outside shots when they did. They had a few chances, but Connor made some saves at the right time. So we hit 4 goalposts. We had tons of opportunities. It was one of those nights you just got to stay in the fight, and hopefully one finally goes in for you.
Well, and Bones, as I mentioned, I mean, I was only in the building for the final 10, 11 minutes of the third period. But even just during that last half of the third, there was a number of near misses for the Winnipeg Jets, and a number of pucks that could have gone in if it wasn't for maybe a little bit of good fortune. And of course, the brilliance of UC Saros, who was really good. One more from Bones. We'll go with 3 here, Reem. He just talked about, getting back in the win column and, of course, avoiding having nothing to show for a homestand after some really solid play so far this season.
It's a divisional game. We know they're trying to get back in the playoff hunt. They got to beat the teams ahead of them. That was a really solid effort. 60 minutes tonight from everybody on the team. We did have all 4 lines working, looking good. So that's the type of effort we need. Again, give their goalie a lot of credit for keeping the score close. But I liked a lot of what we did tonight.
All right, so there's a little bit more Rick bonus on the win for the Winnipeg Jets. And now this crazy part of the schedule continues. Heading on the road today, out west tomorrow, late night, hockey night in Canada, Jets and the Vancouver Canucks, the resurgent Canucks, who we'll talk about with our pal Simmer a little bit later on in the program. And then, of course, Sunday against the Seattle Kraken. Back to Adam Lowry, though. I mean, a lot of people were talking about the fight. Adam Lowry talked about the winning goal by Kyle Connor and how it all came together.
Casey came off the bench, and I felt like they kind of sagged, and the whole goal was to get as much space between those 2 guys and Casey. So I tried to run a little bit of a pick play, and then Casey made a great play, and his side of the net didn't squeak through, and you're kind of hopeless there, just hoping that it has enough steam to get across the line. But it's a good feeling. We battled hard tonight, and I felt like we were the better team for the most part, than to get rewarded in overtime, and kind of end that 2-game skid. It does well for our confidence as well.
Yeah, it's certainly a big 2 points for the psyche of the Winnipeg Jets, considering how well that they played over the course of the season. I mean, the Washington game, I don't think was one of their best, and really a game that could have gone either way on Tuesday. But you know what? Connor Hellebuck wasn't at his best, and that's going to happen a few times this season. Hellebuck, though, with a big bounce back last night after giving up the first shot, one that he probably would like to have back, shut the door the rest of the way. And here's one more from Lowry, number 8, Reem. We just talked about the Jets sticking with their game and getting a result for it.
Well, yeah, like you said, I think it's, trusting the structure, trusting the game plan that we have. There was certainly some lulls where, we weren't necessarily generating a ton of chances, but, for the most part, I think we did a good job on puck retrievals and creating some chances off turnovers. And, in the third period, kind of, pushing the play forward. We've, had some tendencies, in a few of the games in the past where, we've been kind of caught on our heels, allowing, a lot of zone entries and things like that. And, I think tonight we did a good job using our legs and pressuring. And, even though they weren't going in, we weren't really spending a whole lot of time in our end. And, when they did get a chance, like that glass one near the end, Bucky's there for us. So I think just kind of that mentality to keep attacking rather than sit back.
Here's Adam Lowry, one of the stars of last night's game, and a mention of that huge save Hellebuck made on Cody Glass late in the game. But we haven't talked about Dylan DeMello yet, Reem. 87 games in between goals for the Winnipeg Jets. And shout out to everyone that was in the Kenny and Rennie chat, giving it to Weber for not. How can Dylan DeMello not be the lamplighter? Kyle Connor's always the lamplighter, but Dylan DeMello got the big goal. And that was, just before we hear from DeMello, I guess the question is, Beg, what the heck is Dylan DeMello doing in front of the net at that point? I believe it was a 4-on-4, was it not?
The D are coming. Rick Bowness meant
it. The D are coming, yes.
And Dylan DeMello, he's had a couple close calls this year. I think he had a breakaway or a partial breakaway one time. He had that one-timer that went completely wide, like embarrassingly wide. And first goal in 87 games for Dylan DeMello. They couldn't find his goal song. He said it started playing right when he got to the bench because they probably was way down on the list. But yeah, you see DeMello, you see him out there 4-on-4 in the net, putting in a rebound. Good for him. You like to see that, and in these tight games, you need contributions from guys who aren't usually the big guns. But nice to see him get on the score sheet there. First one in 87 Ken on Kenny and Rainey, they give out the lamplighter for what, best goal or whatever it is.
Yeah,
I don't know the
that
term.
lights the lamp.
The guy who lights the lamp. Kyle Connor's got enough of those. How do you know? I said Ken. Come on, what are you doing?
By the way, if you're at the game last night, we're just gonna let's get this Dylan DeMello clip, and he talked about the game. But let us know in the chat what DeMello's goal song actually was. I'm not sure how often we'll be hearing it this year, but it played last night, albeit maybe a little shorter than normal once they found it last night at the rink. But here's Dylan DeMello on the big win for his club.
You guys controlled that one for long stretches. Weren't quite able to put it away, but you did. What'd you make of the game overall?
Yeah, I think we did a really good job, establishing our forecheck, and did a good job recovering pucks and holding on to them. I think, maybe that first 5-10 minutes we were throwing passes into the slot, and every team has got 5 in the dice there, and we did a good job holding on to it and kind of just taking what they gave us, and we got our D involved and got a lot of motion, and that opened up some lanes for us and some seams, and Saros made some really big saves and kept them in it and probably won them a point, but we stayed with it. We knew that it was just more of the same. We didn't have to change much, and we didn't have to go searching for it. We were playing great hockey, so just great for our group to stay with it and win a close game like that.
Yeah, please, Jet dressing room discussing their return to the win column last night. And again, we'll talk more about it with Billeck and Weber coming up in the next little bit, as well as Rob Simpson talking about the trip out west. Hey, just before we bring in our good friend Scott Billeck of the Winnipeg Sun, don't forget, gang, hey, the holidays are here right now, and there's a lot of people doing some really great work here in the community, helping those in need at the time, during the holiday season, volunteering, working with charities. Let us know about the unsung heroes in the community, and we, along with Wallace and Josh Morrissey, might have a special Unsung Hero Award for them. What we need you to do, podcast listeners, YouTubers, send us an email, unsunghero@winnipegsportstalk.com. Let us know about someone in your life or in your community that, whether it be through volunteering, good deeds, charity work, is making a difference selflessly And those unsung heroes, when we get selected, are going to get an autographed jersey from none other than Winnipeg Jets star defenseman Josh Morrissey. And it gets better. In the name of the nominator, Wallace & Wallace is going to make a $500 donation to the Dream Factory, of which Josh is an ambassador for, and Josh and Margot Morrissey are going to match that $500. So let us know about the unsung heroes in your community making a difference each and every day. Send us an email, unsunghero@winnipegsportstalk.com. Big thanks to Wallace & Wallace and Josh Morrissey for working with us on this program. As we mentioned, our friends at Consolidated Supply, ready for 2023. Maybe you want to talk to them about a hot tub addition to the property. Might be a great time to do that. Talk to Joe and Spicy. And of course, they are our wonderful sponsors, providing the Blue Bomber season tickets for the Marbles Tournament of Champions. Find out more on everything that Consolidated Supply has going on, from golf to landscaping to turf, outdoor kitchens, hot tubs, small engine parts. They've got it all. New relaunched website at cte.ca, and you can pop down and visit them at 1395 Niagara Road East. More snow outside, and the cold is coming, and our guy Donnie and the gang down at Manitoba Battery are ready for it. You know it's that time of year. Do you know your battery's going to make it through the winter? Listen, if you don't know and you want to get a check, just pop down and see them at 1026 Logan Avenue. Give you a quick, easy battery check to see where you are at. And if you need one, you'll get the best price in town and shop local when you're at Manitoba Battery. But they take it one step further. Manitoba Battery will save you money and time by delivering your battery anywhere in the city, citywide, if you order by 3 p.m. by simply giving them a call or ordering online at manitobabattery.com. It's really that simple. There's only one place where you can buy a battery from the comfort of your home and save money while you do it, and that's Manitoba Battery, 1026 Logan Avenue. You can also find them at manitobabattery.com. And hey, folks, I know this is going to be a busy weekend. Christmas shopping, holiday planning. Make sure you include VitaHealth Fresh Market on your destination list, where you'll find great prices on natural and organic supplements, beauty products, and groceries, and Winnipeg's largest assortment of local products, too. And with the holiday season here, why not give the gift of health? VitaHealth has so many gift options for your loved ones, including essential oils, candles, artisan soaps, bath bombs, lotions, and chocolates, you name it. And you can also stock up on some of your favorite holiday food items like stuffing, cranberry sauce, non-alcoholic wines and drinks, great for entertaining, plant-based turkey options, and more. Or you can also order your pre-order your natural free-run turkey in store today. VitaHealth Fresh Market, family-owned, empowering people to lead healthy lives with 7 Winnipeg locations, including the newest store in Linden Ridge, and online at myvita.ca. All right, let's continue the Jets talk going and welcome in Scott Billeck. Oh, hey, just before we do that, Remo, we got to give a big shout out to Pie Boy. First of all, congratulations to Pie Boy, because Pie Boy was the winner of the AEW tickets in our Beat the Box Office giveaway yesterday. But Pie Boy with the $50 super chat. That is unbelievable, Pie Boy. Thank you so much. And hey, in the spirit of giving, we saw what Mitch and Dodgeball on Twitch did yesterday. Derek Schmidt, shout out to you, has just gifted 5 Winnipeg Sports Talk memberships to people in the chat as well. Guys, really, really do appreciate the support. That is just awesome. All right, let's get Billeck in here. Billeck, what a game last night, man. Great atmosphere, nice crowd, and a hell of a hockey game that ended with the good guys winning in OT on a Kyle Connor goal. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the game. It wasn't one of these like barn burners where it was a ton of goals and all that stuff, but it was a good it was a good game by the Jets. I thought, the Jets needed to show that they can, get back to being able to play those tight scoring games, right? I thought 2 things with the team yesterday that stood out. One, they didn't let the frustration of 41 shots and just 2 goals get to them, especially when they were searching for a go-ahead goal there in the second and the third period, as they outshot Nashville all over the ice in that game. But I also thought, just the fact that they were playing so sound kind of defensively in a 1-1 game, it's one of those, they didn't really give up a whole lot in that game. I think the shot totals reflect that. The analytics reflect that. And so, Rick Bowness had been looking for a response from his team after. I think he was probably a little more generous about that Vegas game than maybe some other onlookers might be. I mean, it was a 6-5 game. It was a great game, and it was a fun game to watch. From a coaching perspective, I'm sure there were some things that he wanted to clean up. But I thought the team did a good job of that last night. And then, the response to the hit on Nate Schmidt from Tanner Jeannot by Adam Lowry, I thought that, the hit itself kind of sparked the fans, but the fight right off the face-off and Adam Lowry telling Morgan Barron to go and take the face-off because he was gonna start next to Tanner Jeannot, and those two were just gonna drop the gloves immediately. That's, Adam Lowry is the guy that on this team that will step up and do that. And so, yeah, I agree. It was a fun game to watch. But it was one of those games, I think coming into it, you would have thought, well, you want to see the Jets kind of stomp that team, right? Losers of 4 coming in. The Predators had been struggling. People tend to forget that they have UC Saros in goal. And yeah, he might not be having a great season, maybe statistic-wise this year. This is a guy who was incredible last season. And he was incredible last night. It's not often that the Jets win and the opposing goaltenders name the first star. I think that was apt last night. I think, in a game like that where Connor Hellebuyck only had to make 25 saves, when UC Saros saw 41 shots and stopped 39 of them and 40, and a few, most of those in regulation and some big saves. It was one of those games. It was a good game in all facets. And I thought the Jets dominated that game. Yeah, they didn't get, 6-7 goals. But they showed, that they got back to that way of, they look composed and calm in the situation that they were put in last night. And they managed to, to get another win and another overtime win, the 7th of the season.
Yeah. It's funny. You mentioned Saros, and he was absolutely brilliant. And if he plays, even average or, like he played at times earlier this season, we're probably talking about a bit of a laugher or certainly, a multi-goal lead in the third period. That wasn't the case. And there was a little bit more tension in the building, I found, just because, the Jets had lost these 2 games and, they're looking to salvage something out of it. But while we're talking about goaltending, let's talk Connor Hellebuyck. I'm sort of the opinion that, listen, if Hellebuyck even has one of his average games against the Vegas Golden Knights,
in my last video, I did a short video on...
we're not talking about a 2-game losing streak.
Right.
And a lot of the introspection about the Vegas game probably doesn't happen. I will say this. Letting the first goal in the way that he did yesterday was maybe not a very good omen, but what can you say about a guy that just simply brushes that one off and shuts the Nashville Predators out for the rest of the way? We've talked a lot about all the other guys. It can't be understated how important Hellebuyck was in bouncing back from Wednesday and an early goal that he would have liked to have had back.
Yeah, I think, it said it all. Ken Wiebe, you'll have him on later. He can tell you about it. But, he saw Connor Hellebuyck, already out of the building, basically walking out of the building before the media got down to actually talk to the players
hot
the other night. Right. And, and so here's the thing with Connor Hellebuyck, and that stood out to me because there'd be often games where we would all think that Connor Hellebuyck had a bad game. And you remember what he used to do. He'd come out and say, I thought my game was good. My details were right and all that. Right. And he would, and you'd be like, what? Like, what are you talking about? You got pulled after, the first period. And then, we both remember those, and the fans and people in the chat remember the time he got pulled in back-to-back games. And he liked his details in both of his games. So it's interesting to see the other side of that, where I think he knew in that game that he didn't have a good game and he wasn't happy about it. Instead of sitting there after the game and talking to Wade Flaherty and, whatever, he was out. I think that showed, I think that showed, I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think he's, walking out on the team or anything like that. I think he was just upset. And there goes a guy who needed to get away and just kind of recompose himself. And that shot on the first goal, it was, it's a one-timer. It's a nice goal. I still thought he should have had that shot. I thought he over committed on it, and it went past him low glove beside his left pad there. And so it's one of those things where I think he knew at that point, I got to shut it down. And that's what he does. you look at last year and we talk about, UC Saros having a whatever year. And last year was Connor Hellebuyck who kind of had that so-so year. And still Connor Hellebuyck's numbers, maybe his save percentage overall wasn't as good as he would want it. But his analytical numbers were still very good. And this year they're right back to the top of the league. He leads the league in goal saves above expected, which is, one of the primary stats now that a lot of people will look at to see, how many goals this guy is saving from his team, having to kind of figure out later.
Well, the funny thing is, he has been so incredible all season long that when you have a week like this and a game like Wednesday, it stands out that much more because he has raised the bar to almost a level that's impossible to meet every single night.
Well, that's what
looks human one day, and everyone's, "Whoa, what's going on with the Connor?"
Well, it's funny because his save percentage has dropped by 10 points. And he's still a 927 today, right? Overall today he's a 927 just on the NHL stats page. He's got 15 wins this year. So yeah, he has a couple of bad nights. I think what maybe would have bothered people maybe the most, or maybe it hasn't bothered people enough, is that when Connor Hellebuyck doesn't have his best game, the Jets weren't able to kind of just outscore their opposition to win him a game. For all the games that Connor Hellebuyck has won this team by himself at times, and dragged them through, getting outshot, all those things. I think for me, I would like to have seen a little bit more of the team kind of stepping up in that regard and saying, well, okay, we don't have to depend on Connor Hellebuyck all of the time to win us hockey games. Last night he shut the door. He didn't have to make a lot of saves, but I look at that third period save where he sprawled out and gets his left pad on a shot. And that keeps the game 1-1. So it's he may have had to make maybe 2 or 3 big saves in that game, but those would have cost the Jets the game last night. And so, yeah, I think it's unbelievable what he's doing again this year. He's right back to the Vezina Buck or the Hart Buck or whatever you want. He's at that level again. And to me, it's a 2-horse race right now for the Vezina. It's between him and Linus Ullmark in Boston. And if I look at the analytics, to me, Connor Hellebuyck gets the edge there, and it's because he doesn't play in front of, the Boston Bruins. The Boston Bruins are a very good team. The Jets are a good team as well. Not sure they're on the Boston Bruins level, but yeah, I'm impressed with the way that Hellebuyck has bounced back in games and in the season overall. But I'm not surprised, I guess. And, that's just the way he is. Anytime you talk to this guy, it might seem like he's a little bit out to lunch sometimes because he kind of exists in a different headspace than a lot of us do. And I think he has to be the goalie that he is. This guy doesn't really take a lot of things same way that maybe we would, right? Just referencing some of the losses, some of the goals he's allowed. He's very, very smart in the way that he handles, certain moments of a game, and the way that he's able to kind of dial it in on nights where maybe it looks like it's going to go bad, or just the way he's able to rebound from losses. It takes a lot of mental fortitude to do that, and there's few in this league. We just look at it across the league. A lot of teams are going to tandems, right? This is the talk of the town, or not the talk of the town, the talk of the league right now. How many tandems and how many few bona fide starting goaltenders that you run 65 games a year. That's becoming a thing of the past. Well, there's a few of them still left, and Connor Hellebuyck is certainly one of them, and there's a reason for that, and it's because it starts
2 of them last
years.
night.
Well, exactly, but it's interesting how the league. This is kind of an aside, but it's interesting how the league is kind of going to all that sort of stuff. But I think it just shows how mentally strong some of these starters, these bona fide number ones are. And, I think that's maybe the most impressive thing, overall as the league kind of shifts right now. And maybe this is just a blip on the radar in terms of, but, I think there's not enough good starting goaltenders anymore. And the Winnipeg Jets are really lucky to have one of them that can carry the weight for them as he does kind of, 3/4 of the year, if not more.
No doubt about that. By the way, folks, I do see your topics, the ice topic. We will get to that coming up in a minute. But of course, the why not question of the day, right off the hop, we were talking about the big hit, asking people if they thought that it was clean, if they thought that it was over the line. A little bit more than half saying that it's clean, and it's a Jets chat, so you can kind of take that for what it's worth. Obviously, Rick Bowness didn't seem to have a big problem. How did you see that? And maybe more importantly, what did you think of the response led by Adam Lowry?
So at first I thought the hit was clean. Then I saw the replay and I was like, maybe that wasn't clean. It looked like the shoulder hit his face first, and then you listen to, it's interesting, Kurt. You listen to Bowness and Adam Lowry in particular, we'll get to in talking about the response. But Adam Lowry thought he thought it was a clean hit. And he went as far to say as, I would do the same thing in the same situation, right? Like he would have finished that check. And so, when you have a head coach who, says that's hockey, right? That was the first two words out of Rick Bowness's mouth when asked about it. And then you have Adam Lowry say that, it's not surprising that Tanner Jeannot hasn't got a call from the league today. Then I don't believe so. I haven't seen anything on Twitter. And so, it's one of those things where, I guess it was a clean hit. I mean, it's tough when you slow it down, and I don't fault the officials for not knowing and not calling a penalty there, because even the response by the Jets, obviously a big hit, but I think a lot of people just saw it as on the ice, saw it as a clean hit. It was a good hit. It was a big hit. I mean, it was obviously a bit catastrophic in terms of, the way that Nate Schmidt went down. But I thought, in terms of the response, I mean, I thought, this is a team that's preached this year that if you come at one of us, you come at all of us. And you saw that right away. I mean, Adam Lowry went directly for Tanner Jeannot right off the faceoff, and they fought, and Lowry gave Tanner Jeannot credit for answering the bell. I mean, Tanner Jeannot, he's only 6'2", but he's a tough customer. And Adam Lowry, I mean, 6'5", had the height advantage, had the reach advantage in that fight. But Jeannot held his own. And I think maybe the most interesting thing about all that is that it happened, the fight happened, and say what you want. You were in the rink yesterday. Like how when they dropped the gloves, it went from booing to like basically a standing ovation, right? Like because people were so jazzed that the fight was occurring. And so I mean, you say what you will about fighting. I mean, definitely got the crowd into it. I think it got, Adam Lowry got the team into it after the hit, doing that fight. I think he gets a lot of credit from his teammates for stepping in and doing that. But I think the other thing that it did is that it settled the game down, right? Now the Jets didn't have to go, head hunting and whatever. They didn't have to trying to look out for Tanner Jeannot and trying to.
No, they focused on winning the hockey game.
Exactly, right? And I think that was the biggest thing that credit to the linesman who didn't step in and try and stop it, and anything like, because we see that from time to time where a hit happens and a fight happens and the linesmen jump in and they stop it from happening, and it just perpetuates. It extends what could just be ended right there, and this doesn't happen every time with fights. And I know there's a lot of people who get upset about fighting in the game and how ridiculous it is that every bad hit needs to lead to a fight, but I think
or a clean hit
or a clean hit, that too. But I think if you just let the two players that want to deal with it, then most times I think it settles the game down again, right? Because you have this big lead up, the big hit, you hit the crescendo, and then you have the fight after it, and it stops it from just getting out of hand. I thought we saw that in the Toronto Winnipeg game from last year, where it was insane. I mean, people were getting kneed in the head, and maybe it was 2 years ago.
And it got dangerous too.
But that's what I mean. I mean, so like last night, it stopped. It didn't get dangerous. You didn't see the Jets or you didn't see anybody going out headhunting other Nashville Predators. Nobody was looking for revenge out there. That might have to do with the fact that everybody just thought it was a clean hit on the ice. But the fight, I think ended what, Adam Lowry got the Winnipeg Jets, their pound of flesh after it, after Jeannot got his pound of flesh on Nate Schmidt.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think that was it. I mean, I think it stopped the game.
It's a good observation. It's a good observation on what ended up happening with the game.
Yeah.
Let me cut to the chase because we spent a lot of time talking about Adam Lowry.
Yeah.
Is Adam Lowry the next captain of the Winnipeg Jets?
I knew you were going there, right? And it's a tough one, right? Because you could probably get into Josh Morrissey as well, and I think there's a huge, massive case to give it to Josh Morrissey too, with the way that he handles himself on and off the ice. But I mean, Adam Lowry has been, I don't want to call him the good soldier because I think that's almost disrespectful for what Adam Lowry does. Here's a guy who's come in, he's played whatever role. This is a guy who's graduated a bunch of guys off of his line to higher lines, to different teams, to bigger contracts. I mean, think of Andrew Kopp or Brandon Tanev or, the guys that have gone from his line to do other things in this league. To me, it's tough. I mean, I would say, I think so. To answer your question, yes. Like, I think Adam Lowry should be the next captain of this team. The way he conducts himself off the ice, the way he talks about the team, how smart he is about the game of hockey. I mean, not that those things ever matter, but he also leads the way on the ice. And I think
listen, you know what? I think you could say the same thing. And by the way, there's a poll up, folks. So give us your thoughts in the chat. You could say all those same things for Josh. Absolutely. Yeah. The one thing that I certainly think, and I said as much last year on the show when a lot of things kind of weren't seemingly going too well with the club, and Adam was in that really tough situation with his dad being the head coach after Paul Maurice walked, is that for a number of years, like when Wheeler was the captain, and it sort of seemed like there was a little bit of a class system, if you will, with the organization, Adam Lowry really seemed, and especially when you talk to people close and in and around the organization, Adam Lowry was the bridge between the veterans and a lot of the younger players. And I think he has the makeup, but if you're talking about what Rick Bowness wants, and that is to bring a team together, I really think that listen, you can't go wrong with Morrissey either, but Adam Lowry does so many of those things. And I think that it'll be interesting to see people. Hey, listen, before we go, moving off of the Jets for a minute, I'm sure you saw Mike Sawatsky's article earlier this week in the Free Press on the situation with the ice. They've been fined $500,000 for not having a new rink. Have you been on that at all, Scott? I mean, what do you make of the situation with the ice right now?
I haven't. I mean, but the thing is, like, I've heard, like, it's been difficult to try and get the land that they want. I mean, the last thing that I've heard, and this was a while ago, because I think COVID kind of, put a cramp in everything, right? Yeah. But working, I think is it the RM of McDonald or RM of Springfield, whatever the RM is out there by the rink and out there, like, trying to get land. And I see Kenny in the green room here, so maybe he knows a bit more than I do about it. But it seems that it's been a fight to try and get the land that they want to build what they want to build. Maybe there's got to be more to it, because I mean, you don't often get fined $500,000 for not having your rink ready or built or whatever they said the plan was going to be. I don't know who's dragging their feet here, if the ice are or not. I just don't know enough about it.
Like, I know everyone wanted the rink, but I mean, I was staggered. I mean, like, for a junior hockey franchise to get clipped $500,000. I mean, that's obviously been something that's been going on for a long time.
Right.
Hey, listen, we got to run here, but just very quickly, Ville Heinola, emergency recall. He hasn't played very much. Were you surprised at all that it was Ville, just because that he hasn't been playing lately, and not maybe one of the guys like a Declan Chisholm that could be ready to jump up and step in if need be?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, yes, because he hasn't played, and no, because if you're going to put a guy in the lineup like Ville Heinola, well, he can work the power play, right? And with Nate Schmidt out, there might be a chance for him now to play some power play minutes, and that's kind of where Ville sees himself, and the team has wanted him. And Rick Bowness has said, early on, when he doesn't kill penalties, so there wasn't room for him. If there's room on the power play, well, now that might be the time for him to get some minutes in, right, and see what he can do. So, obviously they've talked to Mark Morrison with the Moose, and I imagine Ville's either must be healthy enough, obviously, because I think even with Capobianco, he wasn't even at practice or the morning skate yesterday. Imagine he's still battling an illness himself. So, I think you could foreseeably see Ville Heinola play not only this weekend and possibly even be on that second power play unit. And so I think that's where the upside is for the Jets. And I get it. Declan Chisholm was played a lot and probably deserves his chance, but does anybody deserve a chance more right now than Ville Heinola in that spot where they want him to see him play and where Rick Bowness is? I think this is Rick Bowness sort of keeping his word more than anything, and giving him an opportunity. And we'll see how it goes on the weekend if he gets into the lineup either against Vancouver or Seattle. But I imagine he might go straight in and play a part on the power play. So
good stuff, Scotty. Thanks so much for doing this. Enjoy these late night games on the weekend, and we'll catch up next week as we head into Christmas break.
Yeah, we'll do. Appreciate it, guys.
Good stuff. There's Scott Billeck of the Winnipeg Sun. Make sure you're following on Twitter at Scott Billeck and checking out his work, of course, in the Winnipeg Sun and on the website. All right, Weber's coming up. We've completed our poll on the Jeannot hit right now, and now we actually have a new why not question of the day. It's in the chat right now on Adam Lowry and the potential next captain of the Winnipeg Jets. Of course, Not AutoCorp is the spot to start any search for a vehicle in town. Or if you're thinking about selling a vehicle, talk to them about their award-winning consignment program as well, which takes all the hassle out of the operation, and you just sit back waiting for a nice check. And folks, the snow's here. Do you have your winter tires? If not, there's no excuse. Winter tire specials right now at Not AutoCorp and the MPI payment plan. Why not get safe winter tires for you and your family and pay later with Not AutoCorp? Pop down and see them. Family owned, Waverly and McGilvery. Trevor and the gang will be there for you. And of course, you can check them out online and everything else they've got going on at not.ca. Well, I gave a shout out earlier to Isha Boy Bruce, who went down and picked up a couple of the new Winnipeg Sports Talk hats, which are available now at Royal Sports. Gang, you can check out our website, but I would suggest going to Royal because not only are the new Winnipeg Sports Talk hats and new era toques available, but you can knock off all of your Christmas shopping for the sports fans in your life with one trip down to 750 Pembina Highway. Jets retro reverse jerseys, thousands of pieces of Winnipeg Jets merchandise, Bomber gear, NFL, Blue Jays and Major League Baseball, Raptors, World Soccer, World Cup kits, international soccer, they've got it all, and the biggest hockey section in town. And listen, with gift giving, they've got a massive Yeti section. There is so much cool stuff at Royal. Give yourself a little bit of time, pop in, take care of all the Christmas shopping this weekend, and don't forget those Winnipeg Sports Talk hats at Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Follow them on Instagram, Royal Sports Pembina, for the latest merchandise drop, sale information, and holiday gift ideas. And speaking of holiday gift ideas, gang, if you're looking to upgrade the wardrobe, our friends at F Apparel have a great deal for you. Gift cards right now. Buy a $100 gift card, and you get a 15% bonus. So $115 coming back on the card. Of course, you can use that for their custom suits beginning at just $400. But the gift of style with custom shirts, pants, chinos, golf pants, men's accessories, and more. They really have it all. It is a one-stop shop for all the men's fashion. And of course, if you're looking ahead to a wedding or a grad in 2023, talk to Andrew and his staff about the great specials they've got for wedding parties and 2023 grads. F Apparel, 190 Smith Street downtown, and online at that's EPHapparel.com. All right, the brains of Kenny and Rennie, the host last night of Kenny and Rennie. Ken Wiebe joins us now. Did Rennie ever connect with you last night? I caught most of the show and I didn't see him.
Well, we were able to connect us. First of all, great to be with you. Technical difficulties on Sean's end from DC. Unfortunately, he spent half the show on trying to get his solution from the good folks on the old StreamYard, but it was unable. He was able to come into the show, but with no sound. So there could be a joke there, but we're definitely not going to take advantage of that wide open door. I appreciate his contributions too much to do so. As you know, hosting is not. I prefer the other chair. Let's just say that, Huss. So I prefer the analyst chair over to the host chair. There's a lot of behind the scenes things in terms of the reads and the banners and the commentary that is an important part of the job.
You did a fine job. You did a fine job yesterday, Ken.
Very kind.
Where is he, in DC?
Well, he was at the OV Watch last night for waiting on 801 and potentially 802. He'll be back this weekend here. Sean McKenzie, since the Leafs are going to be in town, Sean was taking care of the bridge coverage just in case things happened on Thursday night. But Sean McKenzie coming in with the Hockey Night crew for the Leafs game, I believe, this Saturday. So he'll be on his way home in time for the old Christmas party on Sunday.
Hey, just before we dive into the Jets and everything that's going on, I just brought this up with Billeck, and I'm just wondering, have you got any intel or any thoughts on this situation with the ice? I mean, as I said, we haven't heard much. I mean, I know there's been lots of questions about the rink, and they haven't really said much over the last little while. I was just flabbergasted of the size of the fine. That is very, very significant, and we hadn't heard that before. I just wonder if that's a sign that, maybe the pressure and the squeeze is really being put on the ownership group of the ice to figure it out, because the WHL not pleased with the amount of time they've spent over at Max Bell.
Yeah, no doubt, Huss. I think, this has been very kept under wraps, as you know, for a long time here. Folks have been wondering. I mean, we know there's been some, other issues that have been happening, with the previous partner and things of that nature. But what we do know is that the Ice were, committed to building a new arena, and that was part of the reason they were allowed to move the franchise. That's part of the reason the league was willing to move them. They understood there would be a temporary solution at Max Bell, and I think they're doing the best that they can with that scenario. And Huss, I mean, you worked in the facility, and I played in it many moons ago, but there have been some noticeable improvements. But they need to upgrade the quality of the barn to make it up to the WHL standards when it comes to suites and things of that nature. Also, I knew there was a kind of a date coming up, but not necessarily a drop dead date, but a shovels in the ground or at least the plan for shovels in the ground coming quickly. But I had no idea the repercussions would be a fine in the $500,000 range. That's for certain. We know that the Ice have done a great job. They've had a great cycle of winning here, Huss. They're one of the best teams in the country. So I'm sure that this is something that they would have preferred to not have, on their front burner in a year where they're trying to win a Western League championship and potentially get to the Memorial Cup. But I guess it's part of the business side of things, and I would imagine they're going to get things sorted out, because the plan wasn't just to be here for a handful of seasons when they might have a good team. So I think there's a long-term commitment from the ownership group, but at the same time, I think the league is sort of making it clear that the current lot in life is not a sufficient or suitable long-term solution. So I would imagine that $500,000 fine, let's just say, Huss, would not that they didn't have it previously, but that's a getting your attention type of scenario. So,
well, I can just say as a hockey fan and a Winnipegger, I really hope that it happens, because I think there's absolutely a need for a mid-sized venue that could house a junior team that would have, new amenities and features for production that, maybe would be a perfect fit for the new basketball team as well, although they are going to be playing in Canada Life Center, which is going to be awesome as well. Anyways, we hope that all gets done. I just thought I'd hit you with that because everyone's been talking about it in the chat today. What a game last night. Rennie missed a beauty last night at the barn.
Yeah, he did. I know it was a tight checking affair in terms of the score itself, but let's not kid ourselves, Huss. There was a lot of offense to be had, and it's not a surprise that UC Saros, who has been struggling this year, let's just put it bluntly. I mean, he was earlier this week rocking a 306 goals against average, and I understand some folks don't like that statistic as much as they once did. And it doesn't always tell the whole story, but Saros has been mediocre to poor this year on a lot of nights. And last night he was exceptional. He was the guy that had previously been in Vezina conversations, and it made for a not tight checking, but a low scoring affair, a goaltender's duel. And it was super interesting, Huss, because on the flip side, I mean, we knew, like I said on the show, having walked to when Connor Hellebuck walked out past Murat Atesh and I on Tuesday night after the game at 9:55 before Rick Bowness had even spoke. And the look on his face told you all that you needed to know about where his headspace would be at come Thursday night. But then lo and behold, Hussey allows a goal on the first shot he faced, right? So some folks were thinking, but Connor quickly put up the brick wall, although he didn't have to be tested with the same volume or necessarily quality as Saros did, but he still had to be sharp. I mean, because that gets to the scenario, Huss, where in a one-shot game, there's no, you can't afford a stumble or a bad luck or a bad bounce because that's a kind of game that, previous incarnations of the Jets could have easily lost in a game where they mostly dominated their opponent. But all of a sudden, one crazy things happen, or on a double minor, they give up a power play goal or two in a game where their power play didn't, convert for them. All of a sudden, they're looking around, and now it's a 3-game losing streak. And now that even though the Jets had played well, now there's a couple of alarm bells going off, and people are starting to go, "Oh no, here they go again." Instead, the Jets kind of got things stabilized and got that extra point, Huss, and go out on the road for a 2-game road trip against the Vancouver Canucks and Seattle Kraken, as Adam Lowry said, feeling good about themselves. Not that they wouldn't have felt good about the effort, but no good team that wants to be an elite team wants to deal with the 3, 4, 5-game losing skid, Huss. We've seen what that can do to a team, and although we've talked so much about the vibes around the group this year, I mean, they haven't had a ton of tension. They've had a couple nights where they had off nights, but rarely consecutively, and certainly not any point this year where they've had 3 bad games in a row. And not to say that there was all bad against Vegas, but there were enough hiccups in that game that, Rick Bowness had already been concerned about the kind of the quality of chances that were being surrendered defensively. So I thought that the Jets tightened up that aspect of their game really well. And the one thing that we saw throughout the course of the evening, Huss, there were those extended shifts that even included line changes on them where Kyle Connor started and then the Scheifele line came on the ice and they continued those cycle shifts that lasted, 35 to 50 seconds and really put the Predators on their heels. And, they were fortunate the Jets were not able to, turn any of those long extended shifts into goals necessarily, but certainly that allowed the Jets to get a lot of momentum and to really get back to their game. And I thought their forecheck was much more in the on your toes, as Rick Bowness likes to say. They were really, skating well and defending well, which was super important after, giving up 11 goals in the 2 games and 9 of them against an actual goaltender, 2 empty netters. But for a team that's in the top 5 in goals against, that was a big number for those 2 games against the Washington Capitals and Vegas Golden Knights.
Kenny, I talked about this with we've spent a lot of time talking about Adam Lowry's contributions throughout this season, but especially last night with the response the Jeannot hit, playing a part in the OT winner, as he's done a number of times so far this year. I'm not sure that they have any need to name a captain this year, and I'm not sure that they will do it. But when they do, is Adam Lowry the next guy that wears a C here in Winnipeg, do you think? Or is it Josh Morrissey? Is it a coin flip? If you had to lean one way or the other, or is there someone else, or Mark Scheifele, somebody else that we're not mentioning?
Yeah, I don't think I don't like to use the Michael Wilbon PTI push here, Huss, but I would say that both guys are still strong candidates in their own regard. Obviously, a different style of players, a different style of leaders, but both valuable in terms of what they bring to the table. In terms of, I know you mentioned it too with Scott there at the end, and I think that you could also include Josh in that bridge between the highly experienced and the. I would say that both guys play that kind of a role, in terms of bringing their teammates together. So I don't, I'm not really comfortable, setting a. Who's ahead in the race. I think that both guys would be smart choices. Personally, I have said I think that Josh Morrissey will be the next captain. So I haven't seen anything that would suggest otherwise. But having said that, I mean, I had always considered Adam Lowry a strong candidate as well, and he's done nothing but show that he would be a very capable choice as well. Huss, I mean, you and I were on this from the very beginning on the hopefully some folks cashing in on the old Coolbet lines in terms of Adam Lowry's production. Well on his way to career highs in both or all three categories. And he's been absolutely excellent for the Jets. And, the fact that he's on the ice, I think he had one shift in overtime here, was on the ice for the game for the GW. He, delivered a smart drop pass, made a smart play earlier on in the shift that got the puck going the other way. And, continues to do all of the things that people would expect him to do.
Okay, we'll move on from the captain conversation because I know you don't even want to come close to having a take on that.
My take was my original choice was Josh Morrissey. I have not moved off that choice.
Just busting you.
But
Adam Lowry in overtime. Yeah. I remember the people going crazy in the chat room earlier on this season when at times Rick Bowness had started with Adam Lowry and Mason Appleton. And of course, Neil Pionk had the winner. Adam Lowry has turned into a really, really effective player in OT. And, it's not the goal scoring. It's not the brilliant setups. It is the way he's able to win puck battles, get possession of the puck, whether it be, in the corner the way he did last night, whether it's winning a draw and basically skating around for 45 seconds until the other team has to take their top players off. It's really been an interesting development that Adam Lowry has been such an important part of some of the Jets' OT success, Ken.
Well, I mean, Huss, you got to remember he's the guy who's asked to go up against the opposition's most offensive players at 5-on-5, and he's one of their best he is their best penalty killer. So, I mean, if we're continuing down the line, it would, if A plus B equals C, I would say in this case, some folks maybe shouldn't be all that surprised. And some of those folks, Huss, I know there are a few of them in the chat room, and, we don't like to give them wake ups or call them out too often, but that whole refrain about how Adam Lowry should be a fourth line player. I mean, I don't hear that a lot this year, nor should
that's wake up material.
That is wake up material. Let's be honest here. Okay. And the other part of that equation is Adam Lowry taking care of his end of the bargain. Last year in the first half of the year, he was not producing at a level that a third line center it was supposed to produce at, or a guy that you make a 5-year commitment to. So if you're the Winnipeg Jets. So to me, I understand where those folks were coming from, but his role was always important and valuable in terms of the other things he was doing on the defensive side of the puck and everything else. But this is a guy who, if a lot of those folks who weren't paying attention, this is a guy who put up big numbers. I mean, we talk about Josh Morrissey kind of getting back to his junior level production and statistics. I mean, Adam Lowry scored, I think 45 goals for the Swift Current Broncos if he didn't hit 50. So this is a guy that, does he score naturally like Kyle Connor? No, but this is a guy like I hate when folks say some folks in the NHL don't have hands. I mean, this is a guy that's produced at every single level he's played at. So I think we should be paying a little bit closer attention to that. Some guys score naturally than others. We know that. But Adam Lowry is having just a phenomenal season, Huss, for all the things that you mentioned. And also, too, and it wasn't just the fight yesterday. It was, had a couple of humongous hits on the forecheck for a team that had been struggling to get anything going in terms of being disruptive. He had a couple of big hits that he laid out as well. And he answered the bell against one of the toughest guys in the NHL. And, he took a couple, but he also landed a couple of those big rights. So I know, too, there's this big, everyone's going all crazy on the old Twitter machine about fighting and the value of it and whether it provides a spark. But anyone who's played team sports, it's not necessarily just the fight itself. It's the willingness to go against someone when you feel like your teammate was wronged, even if you think it was a clean hit. The Jets made it pretty clear, Huss, at least in terms of my interpretation of Rick Bowness and Adam Lowry, if they felt it was a cheap shot or a dirty hit, they would have said something about it. That was not the case from either person. That's not to say they weren't unhappy, they weren't happy about it, and they weren't happy to see Nate Schmidt get knocked out of the game and now placed on IR. But I don't think that they felt it was a quote unquote dirty hit. So that doesn't mean you don't stand up for a teammate. Adam Lowry obviously did so. It was, I did my best to capture it in my column for sportsnet.ca. It's one of those classic situations where he says to Morgan Barron, "I'd like you to take the draw." Two guys line up. I don't even know that this wasn't a situation where words even needed to be exchanged. It was either a head nod or a tap on the shin pads, and we're going. So, good on both people. I've said this often. When it's a clean hit, I don't like guys having to fight on occasion, but that there was enough kind of borderline. Like I said, I don't think it is a cheap shot. Nate Schmidt was definitely vulnerable because there was somebody chasing him, but I don't think that Tanner Jeannot got out and said, you know what I can do? I can knock Nate Schmidt's head off and knock him out of the game here because he doesn't see me coming. And there was not, some people thought it was charging Huss. I know you've watched the video. He was gliding. He was not, This was not a situation where you traveled 200 feet or even 50. He was gliding on the play. This was not a intent to injure type of scenario. Yes, he comes from the blind side, but he hits him straight on. And it's unfortunate for Schmidt that he didn't see him coming, obviously. I have some time for the folks saying it was maybe a half beat late. I'm okay with that. If they wanted to call it interference because it was late, no problem. To me, it's not a charging major. It's not a suspendable offense. It's an unfortunate circumstance for a guy who, plays his behind off and couldn't have known he was coming. He looked up at the last second and saw him. He tried to get his hands up to protect himself, but he couldn't get them up fully in order to avoid the hit that was clearly with the shoulder, not an elbow, but there definitely was some head contact, Huss. So I understand all those things, but it's an unfortunate result for Nate Schmidt. And Adam Lowry answered the way that we would expect him to do so. It's what he's done for a long time. And his leadership wasn't just in dropping the gloves. It was all the other things that he did in the game. And that's why we're having this conversation about who may be the future captain.
No, it's a great point. Ken Wiebe of Sportsnet, sportsnet.ca, and of course, the always entertaining Kenny and Rennie with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Ken, let's look ahead to the weekend, and we're going to talk about the Canucks and Kraken with Rob Simpson coming up in a couple minutes. But, with this latest injury now to Nate Schmidt and being put on IR, the first things first, how do you think this lineup is going to be looking this weekend? Will we see Carson Kuhlman get a chance to maybe go up against his old team, do you think? And first and foremost, what's this blue line situation going to be in your mind?
Yeah, it's interesting. I know you touched on it there with Scotty at the end. I think what we also don't know is Kyle Capobianco. I mean, he didn't skate yesterday, so we assume he is one of those people who has been inflicted by the illness or the flu bug or whatever you want to call it that's been ripping through the Jets dressing room here. So where is he at? I know some folks were like, oh, we got a couple notes on the DMs today. Oh, where's Hainela been? Well, he's also been sick. I believe it's non-COVID, but I think Daniel Fink mentioned that, but I don't know for certain. Either way, he hasn't played since early December here. He missed 4 games. That's a long time to be out, but it speaks to the opportunity that is available with Schmidt leaving the lineup. Brendan Dillon had his minutes elevated, and he had a second power play appearance yesterday, and had actually a pretty decent one-timer that led to a scoring chance and a rebound opportunity for Kyle Connor that he didn't quite hit fully, and Saros was able to pull it out of the air. But Rick Bowness was very clear, and one thing we've seen, Huss, from Rick Bowness, he tells players what they need to do when they go to the minors. He assesses the situation. He tells them what roles he expects them to play in. And when those opportunities have opened up for themselves, plus some additional opportunities we maybe didn't see coming, he wants those players to be ready. So, earlier in the year when some folks were unhappy, Rick Bowness basically made it clear that Josh Morrissey, Neil Pionk, and Nate Schmidt were ahead of Ville Heinola when it came to being ready to be on the power play and being used in a situation that would be advantageous for someone like Heinola. Well, there's an opening now. So now, as long as Heinola is back up, and he must be, or else he wouldn't have been called up, he must be ready to at least be an option to play. Whether he plays or not, we'll see. That could depend on Kyle Capobianco, but Capobianco hasn't played for a long time either, Huss. So I think that you are going to see Heinola go. He'll play one of the games for sure on the weekend out of the 2, and I would expect him to be in the lineup for both, as long as he's healthy enough to do so. A lot of folks have been waiting for him to get an opportunity like this, where he would have some run being used in an offensive situation and scenario. I'm curious what the defense pairings will look like. I think what I would be doing if I were Rick Bowness and Scott Arniel, and they didn't ask for my opinion, but that hasn't stopped me before, as you know. I think you'll see Neil Pionk and Dylan Samberg, and you'll see Ville Heinola with Brendan Dillon. Now, who plays on the right side, I'm not sure. It sounded like Heinola was playing the right side before he went out with the illness. So, both players are able to play on the right side. So we'll see how it goes in terms of that, but I expect Hanela to be used. And then shifting gears to the forwards, I do expect Carson Kuhlman to be in the lineup, possibly for both games as well, Huss. This is a guy who is an energetic player from some of the scouts that I spoke to and the scouting reports that we've heard. And we saw him, in the morning skate. He gets around pretty well. He plays in a similar game to Dominic Toninato, obviously. One is right-handed, one is left-handed. Both former captains at the University of Minnesota Duluth program. I've heard he's a little bit more physical in terms of the energy he provides. But Kuhlman's had an interesting year too, Huss. I'm sure you looked also. I mean, this is a guy that had a couple games this year in Seattle where he was generally over 10 minutes. And I think he had a couple games over 14 and 15. But in his last game, he only had 4 minutes. I think 6 shifts or something like that. So his role kind of had diminished in Seattle as well. So he's going to be eager to make an impact. There will be a question mark about Michael Eyssimont. We're not sure if he was benched yesterday. I think it's more likely he was one of the players that was under the weather. Huss, I think I had it here. He had only 2 shifts in the third period and 1 or 3 in the second. So, and that was for a total of 135 and 101. His last shift was at 4:06 of the third. So to me, Huss, knowing the Jets were, kind of mostly in control of the game, you understand, sure, Sam Gagner gets the bump up. That's not uncommon. But I mean, I didn't see anything in the game from Eyssimont that would have seen him start in the second or 1A or 1B line and then not only be out of the rotation, but to be off the fourth line completely and not, we know Rick Bowness has loved the energy he's brought to the game. So I would say it was more likely that he was in that, not feeling great category as well. But is it a 24-hour thing or is it something that lingers? I mean, we'll have to see what happens on that front. But, in terms of who else he could replace, I mean, that's a great question. Kevin Stenlund, again, over 10 minutes of ice time, Huss. I thought, drew the penalty in the third period. I think he continued to be involved in the play. And, I mean, for those folks who didn't hear it, Rick Bowness put David Gustafsson on notice, basically, in his pregame interview with Paul Edmonds. So he said he wasn't just moving him to the wing to kind of ease the responsibilities. He didn't think Gustafsson was doing a good enough job creating offense. He did praise his ability to kill penalties and the smart things and subtle plays he makes defensively. But he basically said Gustafsson needs to get going and do more than just have 3 assists in 28 games if he wants to stay on the fourth line. So that healthy competition element, I think, has been elevated for 2 reasons. One, because the Jets made another waiver claim for a guy who is in that fourth line kind of role that can play center or wing, and because of the job that Kevin Stenlund has done since being recalled. I mean, he's skating better than he was in training camp. That's something that Rick Bowness pointed out. And that's not a surprise. I mean, for folks who are unfamiliar with the story, Huss, I mean, this is a guy who had a knee injury last year that required surgery. I spoke to one of his coaches in Cleveland during the offseason about Stenlund when he was signed, and he said it took him a while to get his legs back after the surgery. I mean, it's natural that it takes some time to get back up to full speed. And Stenlund's not a burner, but he was moving better than we saw in training camp. And he's a guy who, even though he's a big, strong man, he doesn't play an overly physical game. So, but that's not to say he doesn't get involved and he's not shy. Doesn't shy away from those other areas. Just for some people who thought he was called up to be a banger and crasher, that's not really his style either. So there's a little bit of a metamorphosis happening. Opportunity is open because of the injuries that the Jets have sustained up front. And there's some guys who have roles that need to be filled. Right now, Axel Jonsson-Fjällby has sort of found himself as the odd man out, for lack of a better term. He was on for 2 goals against at even strength against the Capitals. For certain, one of them, he kind of missed his responsibility on the Trevor Van Riemsdyk goal. Yes, Sam Gagner was also partially at fault because he didn't need to kind of come over to the puck carrier when Nick Dowd got it up to the point. But on the second one, on the goal by Lars Ellerhus, Axel Jonsson-Fjällby is the chaser. We know what kind of speed he has. And the problem for Axel Jonsson-Fjällby was that he was coasting back on the back check. And then not only that, he waved at it with one arm. And then the unfortunate part for him is that Eller got across the crease and then banged home the rebound. So both of those things, I mean, if you're in the video room, we know how blunt and honest Rick Bowness has been. And that was one of those that, I mean, nobody really looked at it at the time, but I was looking at it on, yesterday as well. he does give a good old stick. He knew it as soon as it happened, but he banged the stick after. He's like, oh man, it was like one of those where you realize in real time that you needed to be skating full speed. And if you're not skating full speed, you certainly cannot allow the player to get across to the rebound after the play itself happens. So it's interesting, Huss. Rick Bowness has used a variety of players in top line roles. They've been shuffled back to the fourth line. And then, the next step is quickly out of the lineup. So that element of competition is important, but there's a fine line when you're in that situation, Huss, between trying to become an NHL regular, having the confidence to believe in your abilities and doing the things you do well, versus knowing that if you make a mistake or two, you could just as easily be the guy as a healthy scratch in the press box. And that's something that a lot of, these guys aren't 21 years old kids coming out of junior, but there's still a little bit of a mental fortitude required. And it's just a mentality where you have to just believe in yourself and be confident, instead of worrying about, look, you can't be looking over your shoulder, Huss, but you also have to be cognizant that there are people that are pushing to take your job on a basically daily or hourly basis. So it's a fine line.
I mean, no doubt about that. And I think Kevin Stenlund, his appearance, Ken, here in Winnipeg, and the way that he's played in these first couple games, is a very interesting addition to the mix in the bottom six. And, much like we've seen Mikey Esymonth sort of, up until yesterday, with regardless of, why he wasn't in the lineup or didn't play as much, the way he's sort of risen, I think there's a golden opportunity with, some other key guys out right now for Stenlund to sort of plant a bit of a flag in that top 12 and be a bit of a regular. Hey, before we go, Jets at Vancouver and the Kraken. We're going to talk about both of those teams with Rob Simpson coming up. But any thoughts on the trade market right now? And in particular, heading to Vancouver, there's two players that are very intriguing to me.
Indeed.
Captain Bo Horvat, I mean, I don't know what it would take to get him out of here. He's only signed for the remainder of this year. It's probably more of a rental, but man, what an addition he would be. And then there's Brock Boeser, who makes a little bit more money, but also has 2 years left on his deal. I mean, thoughts on those guys as potential trade targets of the Jets, and any other rumblings you might have for us on WST?
Yeah, personally, I would prefer Connor Garland to Brock Boeser, just in terms of skating ability. And I think there's a little bit more of a feist. I mean, he's a skilled player, obviously, but there's a little bit more feistiness to his game. Boeser, to me, I understand, why folks would think that he might be a fit. For me, at $6 million for multiple years, I just don't know that Brock Boeser fits the style. The style that the Jets play, Huss, to me. He's not known for his defensive play. He has a great shot. He can score, yes, but not a great skater. And for sure, we know that the Jets are, very familiar with the UND folks that have played here, and they would know all of his good qualities. I just don't know that his style fits with the Winnipeg Jets, Huss, and he's neither physical nor defensive. So to me, that's a no for me. As my temporary
What about
GM.
Horvat?
Horvat is I'm out the door going to Friday hockey, Huss. I'm just going to toss the grenade in here. Bo Horvat would be perfect for the Winnipeg Jets on a number of fronts, but for all the folks that want Bo Horvat, the problem the Jets are going to have is it's going to cost a 2023 first rounder and Ville Heinola and probably something else. So it's easy to say the Jets should want Bo Horvat. Are you going to be comfortable in the cost of acquisition if it means trading the best defense prospect and a first round pick and potentially something else? In order for to get something from a team that is trying to reduce some cap numbers. And I mean, Bo Horvat is intriguing for a number of reasons, Huss. And we also know that with the uncertainty over the future of Pierre-Luc Dubois, if the Jets were able to get Bo Horvat in here maybe a little bit earlier than the trade deadline, now you have several months to try to sell him on the Rick Bowness plan and Rick Bowness effect if the Jets need to make a move with one of their other marquee centers. I mean, there's still an awfully large risk attached to that, but I do think if the Jets are big game hunting, Horvat has to be under consideration for all the reasons we just mentioned. Ryan O'Reilly would be intriguing on a number of levels as well. He hasn't been as productive offensively as we've been used to seeing. But if you're, I don't think anyone would be doubting Ryan O'Reilly's capabilities when the playoffs start and the puck drops. I mean, that's a guy you can count on to be a great two-way player. And if you don't remember, look on the old Conn Smythe trophy from 2019. But to me, Horvat but Horvat also checks a lot of boxes for every contender that's trying to add a centerman, whether you were the Colorado Avalanche or, Edmonton Oilers or anything else.
I guess we'll find out. We'll find out in the next couple of months as to where this team is at and how aggressive the Ken Cheveldayoff will be. I mean, I'm not sure that's happened anytime soon. Weber, have a great weekend, and shout out to the gang on Sunday. That'll be, I guess, late night game as well. How's that all working for people that are coming up?
It's 7, I thought. Is it not 7 o'clock start?
Oh, that's right. I was just
not bad. Sunday's not 9. As bad as Saturday.
Yeah.
So no, if it was 9, we'd be looking at a different day, I think. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Huss, it will be a great weekend. And always great to chat. And it's been an interesting, great week in sports. I know you'll be keeping a close eye on whether Mr. Messi can get that one notch on the belt that he's been missing after a brilliant run throughout the tournament and also into the playoffs where the pressure was rising there. So it should be an interesting finish over at the World Cup, and some
triple
interesting
header tomorrow in the NFL. Full
couple
slate
of fun
on
tilts.
Sunday.
Yes.
And then for hockey fans, if you want to go out, we got 2 big Moose games: the Teddy Bear Toss tomorrow, and then the holiday game, 2 p.m. start, so you can get some Moose hockey in, watch some football, watch some soccer on Sunday morning, and of course, then 2 big Jet games as well. Have a great weekend. I know it's going to be a busy one for you. And shout out to the gang that's going to be joining you guys on Sunday night. And we'll look forward to catching up one more time before Christmas next week, dude.
You bet, brother. Have a great weekend. And as always, thanks for having me. And yeah, thanks to all the folks in the chat room and those watching and for making things work on this platform. It's been awesome to see how it develops. And yeah, we'll save the the holiday, then the Christmas greetings for next weekend. But have a great weekend too, my man. Enjoy the Mahomes special this weekend as well.
Cannot wait. The Texans coming up. It might be a lot of Isaiah Pacheco, I think, actually, this weekend. There's Ken Wiebe. Of course, you're already following on Twitter at Wiebe's World. We saw the water bottle emojis in the chat, and always a great time after the game with the boys on KNR. All right. We are going to talk about this weekend for the Winnipeg Jets, going into Vancouver and Seattle with Rob Simpson. Just before we do that, have to give a huge shout out to our wonderful sponsors at Princess Auto. And we all know how popular Princess Auto is because it is the place where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around anywhere. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. And for guys that like working on things, and if you're stuck for a Christmas gift, I don't think you could go anywhere better than Princess Auto. And hey, there's 2 locations in Winnipeg, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, but you can also dig into everything that they've got going on right now on their website and shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Wonderful holiday greeting as well to the family-owned Culligan Water Team, wonderful sponsors of ours since right when we got going, celebrating over 65 years in business as the go-to people for all things water and water services in Manitoba. They've got softeners, filters, bottled water coolers, whole home systems, drinking water systems, and citywide water delivery services and commercial and industrial water products and solutions. Pop down and see them at 1200 Sargent Avenue, 204-694-5180 on the horn, or check out everything they can do for you and your family or your business online at drinkculligan.com. Our friends at Canadian Club are certainly ready for the holidays. Many of you are probably already ready for the holidays because you picked up Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club, at your local Manitoba liquor marts. Well, if you're popping by the LC anytime soon, obviously you'll want to get some of that great Canadian Club and the Canadian Club products. They do, of course, have the CC and ginger as well available in cans. But check out the Jim Beam display, Bomber fans, because at the 20 largest Manitoba liquor marts, there's a Jim Beam display. And when you pick up a bottle of Jim Beam, you'll also get a Winnipeg Blue Bombers collector glass featuring either Zach Caleros, Adam Bighill, or hometown hero Nick Dembski. Right now at your local Manitoba liquor marts, and a big happy holidays to our friends at Beam Suntory. And remember, folks, Operation Red Nose, Uber, whatever you do, don't drink and drive. All right, we are going to get to Rob Simpson and then Hacksaw and then Marbles. We've still got lots to come up, but let's right now head out to the West Coast. You can follow him on Twitter at SimmerPuck. Vancouver Hockey Insider, Seattle Hockey Insider. What a perfect day to welcome Rob Simpson into WST. What's up, Rob? How are you? Great to have you back on the program.
Hustler, thank you very much. Weird to see your actual name. I just prefer Hustler. It's like Bono. I don't want to know your real name.
Yeah, well, we disclose that every now and again on the show, but certainly you won't hear it very much, very often outside of this. Listen, let's start with the Canucks. That was such a miserable start to the season. I think a lot of people thought that this season was pretty much done before it even got started. And, you look right now, they've got it backed up to 500 right now and are certainly within striking distance of at least playing meaningful hockey games in the second half of the season.
Yeah, it was pretty wild to start because the entire offseason and training camp, the questions over and over were, okay, you got to get off to a good start, got to get off to a good start. And the boys kept saying, oh, yeah, we're going to get off a good start. We're absolutely going to. It wasn't as atrocious as last year with Travis Green, obviously, because here we are in December and they're still kind of in contention. And yes, with the Seattle Kraken losing to the Carolina Hurricanes 3-2 and going 1-3 on their road trip, they now have played. They kind of had games in hand on everybody, but now they're equal in games played with the Canucks, who are 6 points behind the Kraken, and that's the third place team. The Canucks, that is, are only 3 points behind the two teams tied for that final wildcard spot, which is 32 points. And again, there's a difference in games played, but I mean they're hanging around, and it's pretty remarkable because they did get off to the crappy start again. But they've managed to kind of plug it along, and Bruce Boudreau remains confident.
Well, first of all, he remains employed, and I think a lot of people thought that might not happen. How much faith did Bruce have in the guys, and at what point did it sort of turn around? And listen, is this fool's gold, or can the Canucks continue pressing forward?
Well, I think I speak to Bruce, that is Gabby, periodically. We go back a ways, and I kind of brought up the topic. I go, is this playoffs or bust for you? I kind of took it that far out because obviously, like you mentioned, there's been speculation already about his job security, and he just kind of said, no, I mean, I'm not thinking about that. I'm just plugging away here, and he is confident with his team. We know the shortcomings. They can be a bit of a mess in their own end. They've had some injury problems. It didn't help. I mean, I'm not a huge Tucker Pullman fan, but the fact that essentially his career is probably over, his season again is over with the headache problem. He's been out, so there's a right-hander. That's their biggest weakness, the right side. Never got a chance to play. Travis Dermott has a concussion in the preseason at training camp and essentially hasn't played. So they were depleted along the blue line. They tried to add some bodies, Ethan Bear, Riley Stillman, plug and play, and that remains kind of a questionable area. They can be a little bit of a circus sometimes trying to break out, essentially. But Gabby remains confident. He loves their fight and he loves their resilience, and they're having at it, and they're hanging around. I don't know if people here tend to be, it's almost like the death march or the counter tick-tock. Okay, when are we going to start seeing the trades? When are we going to see this thing implode? I don't know if there's a great deal of confidence.
Well, and the weirdest thing about Vancouver is the fact that, I mean, you signed JT Miller to an extension that hasn't even kicked in yet.
Right.
For all those talks about trades, I mean, it certainly didn't seem like that was the plan in the summer right now. But as far as the year goes, I mean, you mentioned, hey, sometimes they kind of look a little iffy in their own end. The one thing that they can do is score goals. And Elias Pettersson has been a monster this year.
Yep.
And speaking of contracts, Bo Horvat continuing to be one of the top guys in the league when it comes to pulling the trigger. And it just adds more intrigue as to not necessarily the next game or the next week, but the future for this club. And I'm sure that takes up most of the oxygen within the market, whether they're winning or losing.
Oh, yeah. And the market loves to take up oxygen with the rumors and such. So, yeah, it's the future of Bo. I actually even threw out there about, hey, you know what? JT Miller's no move clause is not kicked in yet. And that was the first question I asked Patrick Aldean, the GM, this summer when they signed him. I said, by the way, did you back time, which happens with certain clubs and certain contracts, they will back time a no move to cover what's left in the existing contract. And he said, no, we didn't do that. So, I mean, it's unlikely, but, you know, Miller is still available at $8 million a year for 7 seasons, which is not a horrible number. So it would be kind of a donkey thing to do, but, you know, that option remains. Because my concept is move the 6.6 Besser. You're moving Horvat or Miller, more than likely. You've got to sign Kuzmenko. He's under a 1-year deal for $1 million. This guy's doing very, very well. They're going to do a little more wait and see, get a little more, see a little bit more of his effort here as the season progresses. But that's a situation. And then, as you mentioned, Hustler, guess what, fans? We had JT Miller last year. We have Bo Horvat this year. Petey's contract starting next summer, eligible to be re-signed. So he's going to be the guy. It's going to start up with the Paterson talk at the end of this season, because then he's going to be eligible for a new contract. So the fun just keeps on rolling.
No doubt about it. Well, focusing more in the present, and of course that's Saturday against the Winnipeg Jets. I have to ask you about goaltending. I mean, it's kind of amazing that the Canucks have turned their season around, considering the way they started, with Thatcher Demko either being out or getting lit up.
Yeah, man. So out a 6-week timetable with the injury, and then Spencer Martin comes in. He implodes in the first game. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, what is happening here? This is the worst possible nightmare. Because let's face it, I even brought this up. I wrote an article about it last year. It's like, you know what, Thatcher Demko, you know, he's been fantastic, but we can go through the lists. The Andrew Raycrofts, part of that was a knee injury. Matt Murray, up and down. You know, go through the list of goaltenders over the years. There's no guarantees. 3rd year, 2nd year, 6th year. And that was writing about Demko. So he starts off slowly. And then you take a guy like Spencer Martin, who had played, 6 games for the Canucks and something like 9 for Colorado, somewhere in that ballpark. Very inexperienced. And then Colin Delia is the backup. So, yeah, it's a huge question mark. But Martin seems to quickly have gathered, kind of gained his confidence back and gathered his game back together. And he picked up a nice win the other night. So we'll see. I would call it dicey because, you know, confidence is tender.
Rob Simpson's with us as we get ready for the Jets to head out to Vancouver and Seattle on the weekend. And perfect time to talk to you because we can hit both teams. While the Canucks were horrible at the start and have sort of, you know, regained their momentum towards the top of the standings, or at least towards a playoff spot. Seattle's been the exact opposite. This incredible start, but you look, they've lost 5 of 6 right now. Is it getting close to midnight for the Cinderella team of the first half of the season, Rob?
I mean, it was a really tough gauntlet on the East Coast, a 4-game trip. They finished 1-3. You know, they lose in Washington. They had an impressive win in Florida, get spanked in Tampa, and then lose to Carolina. The biggest problem, Hustler, is, and you've heard the cliche a million times from coaches included, come from behind hockey is losing in hockey. Canucks know that very, very well from early in the season. This is a team that keeps putting themselves in 2-0 holes and then trying to fight back against very good teams on the road. So generally speaking, big picture, they need a little more help on the D. So Alexiak gets the suspension. Justin Schultz goes down with an injury, and you're working with Gustav Olofsson and Cale Fleury as a third pair. Will Borgen, a regular with Carson Soucy. I mean, I think Ron Francis, his top priority if he was going to be working on this hockey team would be bolster that D depth a little bit, give him some more options back there. I mean, they've plugged and played. They were very healthy, by the way, until Alexiak missed 4 games with an injury and then the suspension. perfectly healthy along that blue line the entire first 2 months of the season, which is pretty good when you get that kind of consistency along the blue line, night in and night out. So they're starting to show little pockmarks. So that would be an area to think about big picture. Otherwise, they're still getting pretty balanced scoring. They're getting a lot of help from the fourth line. Daniel Sprong's been good. Morgan Geekie. Ryan Donato is always a threat. Lots of folks lighting the lamp. It's just a matter of them maybe regaining that confidence and showing some of that consistency. I wouldn't write off the Cinderella story just yet, but they are going through somewhat of a mild correction here.
Rob, listen, big picture for the Kraken. It's about the young players. It's about the future. And interest what you saw in Shane Wright. We're, of course, going to be seeing him at the World Juniors playing for Canada. And Matty Berniers, who's...
matter of Wright getting there. I've seen all of his games in the NHL, or at least all of his home games. And boy, the confidence he got from that 2 weeks in the American League, his conditioning stint was very noticeable. Now he runs off to World Juniors. It was pretty cool seeing him. The crowd went bonkers at Climate Pledge Arena when he got that first goal against the Montreal Canadiens. pretty fitting for him after the draft. So, I think they're patient. He's patient. He's a knower. The kid, he's still 18. I mean, he literally just turned 18 in the summer, right around the draft. So he's just a kid. I think the future looks pretty bright if he continues to trend in that direction. You have a Beniers, Shane Wright 1-2 punch potentially. That would be pretty good.
Hey, Rob, speaking of the crowd going crazy, people in the chat would kill me if I didn't bring up our old pal Brandon Tanev. I remember a story when the Kraken came to town after, 2 or 3 games. There was a picture of the pro shop, and they had all the jerseys and all the shirts, and there was one empty row, and it was Brandon Tanev. And I was not surprised at all that he was such a popular player, but it seems like he's been an impactful guy and, plays in a number of different situations for Dave Hacksaw.
Yeah, he's been good. He's an energy guy, and every team needs that energy guy. And again, that's part of that balanced scoring in the bottom 6. And he's played third line, played fourth line. He's moved around a little bit. Actually, spent some time playing with Shane Wright. I can't remember if he was. I can't off the top of my head remember if he was actually on the ice when Wright got that first goal. I can't remember if he was on that line that night or not. But yeah, they love him. He's kind of brings that kind of psycho energy to the affair, and of course he's famous for the headshot. It's I don't even know if I can open my eyes that wide, but he's got the Google eyes and and he's doing the crazy look on his headshot. So everybody loves that. In fact, a guy that covers the team sent me a photo of this junior player who's been drafted who did the same thing. And he's like, hey, here's a future line mate for Brandon
Tanev. The trendsetter, Brandon Tanev.
Crazy look.
Hey, Rob, before we go, tell us what you can about the newest Jet, Carson Kuhlman, who Winnipeg picked up off waivers this week.
Just kind of a grinder guy. He was part of that fourth line mix. I think he ended up playing in 7 games this season for the Kraken, was a healthy scratch the rest of the time. Not going to bring a lot of offensive punch. Oddly enough, I picked him one night might have been 2 games before he was moved or waived, where I did a little shift diary one night of all of his shifts, just go through and describe what goes on and how things are going for him. And he was slow out of the blocks, had kind of just a ho-hum first and second period, then it brought a lot of energy in the third period, actually had a scoring chance and was really getting into it. But he might have just been a reflection of the team in general that night. But not going to bring you a ton of offensive upside, but he'll bring you some energy and he'll bring you some physical play.
Rob, this has been a lot of fun. You're going to be busy seeing a lot of the Winnipeg Jets on Saturday and Sunday out on the West Coast. Enjoy the games and have a great holiday season. And let's do this again later on this year.
Hustler! Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And yes, we'll see you down the road. I'm looking forward to seeing the Jets, Jets.
All right, great stuff with Rob Simpson. If you want to follow him on Twitter, give him a follow over at SimmerPuck. All right, we're going to get into some NFL talk with Hacksaw, but in just a minute or two, Remis is going to open up qualification for the marble race. Qualifier number 7 today. And don't forget the big race on the 30th of December, where our great friends at Consolidated Supply have put a pair of Bomber 2023 season tickets on the line. So make sure to stick around for our Friday marble race. And yes, I guess it's Friday, so we'll also have a hoodie for the winner. And maybe a pair of Moose tickets for second and third as well. I've got some seats kicking around for that. Hey, big shout out to Nick and Nikki DQ for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, 4 locations in Winnipeg and Southern Manitoba: DQ Niverville, DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, and DQ St. Anne's. I've been telling you that one of those ice cream cakes might be a perfect addition for a holiday gathering right now. Step up the dessert game for the big dinner and make everyone happy with one of those DQ ice cream cakes. You can hit them up on Instagram at DQ Manitoba. And obviously, when you're going to pick up that cake, you might want to grab one of those stack burgers as well. And speaking of Nick and Nikki DQ, I saw my guy DQ Nick last night at Boston Pizza after the game. Everyone was in a great mood after Kyle Connor's OT winner. Got a chance to watch the rest of the National Football League Thursday nighter. Another big win led by the San Francisco 49ers defense. We're going to get to that with Lee coming up in a minute. But of course, a huge sports weekend. NFL all day. World Cup final Sunday morning. Jets at 9 tomorrow night and at 7 on Sunday night. No better place to get together with the gang than Boston Pizza. Check out their new holiday menu as well. And I can't encourage you enough to try the jalapeno popper dip. It is absolutely unreal. And hey, wherever you are this weekend, make sure you wash it down with Winnipeg's favorite local beer, Little Brown Jug. If you haven't already, be a great time to pop down and get together with some friends at the brewery and tap room on William Avenue. And, you can pick up and try all your favorite Little Brown Jug beers there, and also check out their amazing merch line, which might make a great gift for the beer connoisseur in the family or in your crew. Bottom line is you can pop down and get it for yourself at William Avenue at the brewery and tap room. You can also order it, both beer and merch, for citywide delivery online at littlebrownjug.ca. Available also at fine beer stores throughout the city and province. And hey, if you're at a fine bar and restaurant, they'll have 1919 on tap, and that should always be your number one draft pick. Big shout out and happy holidays to our friends at Little Brown Jug. All right, big weekend in the National Football League coming up. 3 Saturday games. Let's get Hacksaw. And Hacksaw, best of the season to you, my friend. What's going on?
How are you? Boy, you're unbelievable. You're just serving lunch to all of us here. You're buying us pizza, beer, then you're taking us to DQ. I'm in. Where do I sign up for that? By the way, do they home deliver here to San Diego?
We certainly have a great family of partners and sponsors that are quite popular with everyone in the chat. Hey, before we get to the entire weekend coming up, listen, I was stunned when Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs went into San Francisco and lit that team up for 44 points. Since then, though, this defense has been almost impenetrable, giving up no more than 17 points in a game, having a shutout, completely stifling the Buccaneers, and doing it again last night. I'm not sure that there's even a big drop-off with Brock Purdy in from Jimmy Garoppolo, Lee, but Kyle Shanahan's teams is setting notice to the rest of the NFC that before you just anoint Philadelphia with their spot in the big game, don't forget about the Niners.
No, I think you're correct. I think there's a whole number of things here to play, Hustler. One is obviously they're getting healthy. Then 2, they made the trade to get McCaffrey, which I think changed the whole persona of the offense, because before that it had been, do we have a healthy running back? Can we put Deebo Samuel back there? Does that take away from a wide receiver group? And now you get McCaffrey, and even though they lost Elijah Mitchell, the other heavy duty back, they're still pretty good at running back, and McCaffrey runs it, McCaffrey catches it. And that makes Deebo Samuel out on the edge even more dangerous. And the kid from BYU, Ayuk, and the tight end Kittle, who's finally healthy for the first time in a couple of years. My goodness, are they diverse offensively, and they can hurt you all different ways. And the defense, they just beat you up. They are just relentless. They are physical. I think the thing that I watched really closely last night in the secondary, their corners and their safeties, when they hit you to tackle you, you stay hit and you stay tackled and you're on the ground. It's a really, really well-packaged defensive football team. And yeah, I'd say right now San Francisco is right behind Philadelphia as being the elite in the NFC. And who knows about the health of some of the teams in the AFC right now. But San Francisco's rolling. And Brock Purdy, although I told you last week, I said, yeah, he had the nice start, but you know, the more video the coordinators get on quarterbacks, they'll start to defend them certain ways and take them away from what they do good and push them into things that maybe they don't handle. Well, Purdy came out of the gate, and its teams now have two game tapes of him. He came out of the gate, went 11 for 11 out of the gate, and he was throwing that ball everywhere. And then Pete Carroll changed up, and they went to blitz packages, and they kind of disrupted the rhythm, etc. But when it got to be 14-3, I was out at a restaurant with my wife, and I said, this sucker's over. There's no way Seattle's going to be able to really come back in this thing just because Frisco's defense just goes and goes and goes and gets you. So they are really a complete team, and it's a fascinating story. And I'm not going to link Brock Purdy, last guy in the draft, to Tom Brady, 6th-round draft pick Hall of Famer. But I tell you what, this kid has shown he can play. Now, can he continue it? That remains to be seen, because if you recall, the last small college quarterback we saw that kind of came out of the chute, did really well, was Carson Wentz. And that went about a year and a half till he got banged up, and his career's kind of really dissolved and fallen apart. So these smart guy coordinators will find ways to slow this kid quarterback down. But this kid quarterback's managing the games really well, and he's got a lot of people on the periphery to really, really help him. So yeah,
well, he's on the team to do it, Lee. I mean, Kyle Shanahan had Jimmy Garoppolo throw the football 8 times in the NFC Championship game last year. They're not afraid to run the football and win their game with defense. But while we talk about the Niners, can we stick a fork in the Seahawks? And I'm sure we can stick a fork in the Arizona Cardinals and basically give the NFC West to the Niners.
Well, I think Seattle, they had the great first half. Geno Smith is winging it. I mean, this is probably the comeback player of the year. He may well lead the league in passing yardage by the time this thing is done. But for Seattle to hang in there, and they've had all kinds of injuries at running back. I mean, they're down 4 running backs, and they've had injuries on the defense, and it's just not a complete football team. And now maybe it's kind of caught up to them a little bit, and Geno's having to do a lot of it by themselves. And they are sitting there at 7-7, and they've really kind of skidded out of contention. In Arizona, what a horrific injury to Kyler Murray. The end of the season record of Cliff Kingsbury has been horrible at college and in the NFL, and this is another downward cycle. They never got their whole complement of their team on the field this year because of injuries. I mean, Murray's gone now. Virtually the entire offensive line's been a mess. They had injuries at wide receiver, the DeAndre Hopkins suspension. So it's just never been one and all in together, because everybody's got all these problems. And I'll tell you, I think Kingsbury's in trouble. I think their general manager, Steve Keim, who's just left the team with personal problems, a.k.a. alcohol probably, he's left the team again. Arizona's got a real set of problems here, and I don't know what Mike Bidwell's going to do at the end of the season, but this is like the 3rd year in a row that this has not worked out very well in the back half of the schedule. So somebody's going to pay a price, I think, when this thing is done. It might be Kingsbury.
I wouldn't have blamed them if they fired Kingsbury at halftime after that boneheaded 4th and 1 gamble at the end of the first half. But I digress. Let's get to the weekend. And we've got some really interesting Saturday games highlighted by the primetime game, Lee. Buffalo. They're not moving this one to Detroit, but there's a lot of snow coming just in time for the Miami Dolphins, who are reeling a little bit after their last 2 losses on the road in a very disappointing game against the Chargers down in your neck of the woods last week.
Hustler, you going to the game? Ticket in your left hand, snow shovel in your right hand. I just checked the weather forecast, Andrew. They're talking 12 to 24 inches of snow between now and sometime midday Saturday, Buffalo. Lake effect snow. Now they're talking 20 to 28 inches of snow at my cottage in the northern Adirondacks, which is much farther east than Buffalo. But at the end of the day, Miami, they got a real problem, because there'll be snow, there will be cold, and partner, there will be wind. And that's the biggest enemy of quarterbacks playing in Buffalo, is what does the wind do to your passes? What does it do to your routes? Does it make it a much shorter game, so therefore defenses don't have to worry about what's going on deep, because you can't get the ball there because the wind will blow it off course? And by the way, those are the Sunshine Boys coming from Key Biscayne to play in Buffalo. It's going to be hard. Miami's coming off a really bad game. The Chargers just played out of their minds. I've not seen the Chargers play like that defensively. And they came up with a game plan that was spectacular. They pressured with only 4. They did not blitz. They dropped 7. Tua must have thought when he was in the pocket Am I playing in the Canadian Football League? It's like there are 13 guys back here in the secondary. And the Chargers played press coverage, and they plastered the receivers. They never let them off the line of scrimmage. They mugged Tyreek Hill. They put a guy over the top, and they chucked him at the line of scrimmage. He never got going. And Tua, I'd never seen this before, but they pass rushed with the emphasis coming off his left side, and he's left-handed. So he could not step into the pocket and throw left-handed because there were people coming at him. He had to move off his spot, move to the right, which meant his mechanics went all. He was throwing the ball everywhere but to the receivers. So at one point he was 6 for 22. Think about that. NFL star quarterback, 6 for 22. So Miami's just not the same team. So they go from a tough matchup with the Chargers. Justin Herbert just killed them. Every time they blitzed, Herbert was making plays, and their defense just harassed that quarterback into submission. And they're going from that in the sunshine of Southern California, and they got to go play in the snow and cold in Buffalo. This is going to be a really bad Saturday afternoon for Miami.
Lee, I got to ask you about two other games this weekend. And one, you just mentioned the Chargers. Derrick Henry owns December, and as good as they were last week, they're going to need to be even better to handle Henry. Although I would also expect Mike Vrabel to be pretty pissed at the way his team played last week and losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Fill us in on that game, and then of course the matchup between Bill Belichick and his old offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels in Vegas.
Well, the one thing that worries me about Tennessee, and I've always liked Vrabel, and he runs old school football, and they practice hard and they play hard, but they look like they're a really tired football team. Their last 3 or 4 games haven't been very good. Now they're beat up, their offensive line. They lost their left tackle. Taylor Lee won really early. They've had a lot of injuries along the front. And Derrick Henry's had some really good games, but he's also had games where he had 13 carries for 30 yards. That being said, they got to win. I mean, their backs are to the wall here because things are starting to get away from them. And I do think that they'll come in and try to run the ball down the Chargers' throat because the Chargers still have the worst run defense in the NFL. Ryan Tannehill can be skitterish. He can have those games where he'll throw for 333. He'll also have those games where he'll throw for 119. I just don't know that the Chargers have enough defense to knock him around. And what we saw last week, Chargers-Miami, I think was a bit of an aberration. That being said, Tennessee's defense is going to have its hands full because Justin Herbert just makes plays and plays and plays, and you can't sack him, and he's not afraid of anything. I kept track last week. He got sacked 5 times. I think he got pressured 21 times. He got hit 14 other times, and yet he threw the ball down the field, threw for 300 plus, and they beat Miami. So I don't know that Tennessee's going to be able to bully Justin Herbert around. And the student versus the teacher matchup, New England's got to win. And they're scuffling still on offense. You just never know what you're going to have from quarterback Mac Jones. Their defense plays pretty well. This will be a really interesting game to see Belichick's defense against Josh McDaniel, Derek Carr's offense. And the Raiders are getting 2 guys off IR. I think Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller are pretty close to being activated to actually be on the game day roster. And if you add them, and they've just never all been on the field at the same time because everybody's had nagging injuries up there, but you add those guys with Devontae Adams, I think it's going to be an interesting game because McDaniels has gotten his team playing better and better as the season's gone on, and now he's got all the hurt guys healthy. And Belichick, even though he's got a screwball coaching staff and play calling and that whole scenario with Mac Jones, they're still good, and the defense is kind of carrying them. And Mac Jones has shown in spurts he can play in this league and play very effectively and efficiently without turning the ball over. So that'd be a pick-em game, but you got the student, Josh McDaniel, you got the teacher, Belichick, going to be fun.
History has told us it hasn't gone well for the former Patriot assistants when going up against Bill Belichick. Lee, of course, it goes without saying, one stop to LeeHacksawHamilton.com will get you ready for everything going on in the football world and the football world, of course. Fill us in on what's cooking on the site and give us your thoughts on the World Cup final before we say goodbye.
France, Argentina, it's going to be a good one. I think the interesting sideline story, and I wrote about it a little bit on my website, LeeHacksawHamilton.com today. I think the most interesting thing is all the big name teams that are not playing on Sunday at 7 a.m. out here on the West Coast in the championship game, all of them fired their coaches. I mean, Germany's guy is gone. Spain's guy is gone. Brazil's coach has quit. Mexico's coach got fired before he got to the press conference an hour after the game. Portugal's coach just resigned today. So We thought that life as being a talk show host could be fluid, could be dangerous, could be scary. Hey, life of a World Cup soccer team is absolutely amazing. And a sidebar story here, our coach, Greg Berhalter's contract has expired, and they have not offered him a new contract. And this guy took Team USA from ground zero, rebuilt it with the second youngest roster in the history of the Cup, and got him into the knockout round, and they have not renewed his contract yet. So I think it'd be foolish for Team USA to let this guy go after all the foundation that he put in place. That being said, if you like sports, check my website. I write on it every day, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. And like this guy in Winnipeg, this guy on the West Coast now has his own podcast, is blowing up. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but it's working. Just go to YouTube, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, sample it. It's about 55 minutes of everything in the world of sports, according to me. And it's working really well. And Hustler, it's all your fault because you told me how to do this, and now I'm doing it, and it's totally out of control.
Hey, it's about damn time. We're loving every minute of it. Saw, have a great weekend. Thanks for doing this. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Andrew, and your guys. We'll chat with you again. Thank you.
You got it. There it is. The legend himself, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, with us for a little Friday NFL Notebook. And yes, check out the YouTube channel and make sure you give him a sub. Just press that red subscribe button. Speaking of pressing that red subscribe button, I hope you've all done that here and are now ready for the marble race. Last call for marbles. If you just popped in, !marbles is the command. Remo will wrap that up in just a second. And while we get ready for the big race, let's get to the Coolbet lines for tonight. I'm struggling. I'm 3-1 this week with the daily pick for Coolbet. Had a nice one yesterday with the under for the team total for the Seahawks. Actually did also play a little sprinkle on the Kyle Connor goal last night, so I was extra happy in OT. But there's not a lot going on tonight. We got some bowl games that are already happening. 3 games in the NHL tonight. Some huge lines. The Minnesota Wild minus 417 home favorites against the struggling Blackhawks. And the puck line on this game is 2.5. I'm not sure if I can swallow that. Interesting matchup between St. Louis and Calgary. St. Louis, tying it up in the last 30 seconds, shorthanded against Edmonton, and then winning in the shootout. That was a tough one to let slip away for the Oilers, but a very, very big win for the Blues, who have been so streaky so far this year. And they're taking on the Calgary Flames, who have been getting to OT, but they haven't been winning as of late. Flames minus 217, Blues plus 180. Blues, of course, on the second end of back-to-back nights. I might have to lean Flames, maybe to get a better number, go puck line at minus 1.5. And then it's the Islanders and the Arizona Coyotes. Islanders minus 180, Arizona plus 151. And a quick look at the NFL lines. Again, the new lock shop. We did a mega lock shop show this week with our best bets, with our parlays, with everything in one because of the Saturday games. That's up right now. Make sure you follow us and subscribe to Lock Shop Bets on YouTube. We got 3 games tomorrow. Vikings, a 3.5 favorite at home against the Colts. The Browns and Ravens going at it in the dog pound. Cleveland, a 3-point favorite at home. And then that game we just talked about, the Buffalo Bills welcoming Miami. Bills laying 7 at home in what is expected to be a winter wonderland in upstate New York tomorrow. Rest of the games are up, and we've got 2 exclusives, 2 Lock Shop partner parlays this week. Because originally we had one and then realized, well, we've got the Vikings in it to win. That's the early game tomorrow, so that'll be off the board early on Saturday. But I think we like this one even better. All Sunday games, all teams to win. It's the Bengals, the Commanders, and the Broncos. Cincinnati taking on Tampa, Washington taking on the Giants, and the Broncos taking on the Arizona Cardinals. Some pretty nice numbers there right now. Plus 390 on the Saturday one and plus 310 on the Sunday one. Good luck. And if you haven't played it, Coolbet before, use the promo code WST and you'll get a 100% bonus on your first deposit up to $200. Well, Remote, been a great week. Been a great show today. A lot of fired up Jet fans in the chat. And now we welcome in the Marbles fans to finish up the only way we know on Friday.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We got a number of entries in here. One sec. But before we go, I have a couple notes, Hess. Some topics this week we never touched on. These has been in the thing for a while. NBA renaming the trophies this year to like Jordan Trophy. What do you think about doing that for hockey? Yay or nay?
Well, we're canceling the current guys that the trophies are named for.
Yeah, like cares Besnep, or Hart. We're changing Art Ross, whatever.
No, I completely out on that. That's just people with recency bias that have no knowledge of the history of the game. X.
I'm with you on keeping. I like the hockey. Although some people are like, well, Art Ross just bought the trophy. He didn't actually play or something like that.
Who cares? If the guys were good enough, they got their names on the trophy. Don't worry about it.
All right. Okay, we got 268 entries here, Hess.
Whoa.
We do have some other reports I wanted to get to as I do this. So Greg Wyshynski just reported, Hess, that the NHL is considering expanding the schedule to 84 games.
Good. Come on.
To have more. They're really into geographical and geographical rivals. They want to have more rivalry matches. What do you think about adding the games?
They want 2 more games. Again, figure out a way to get more revenue, not on the backs of the ticket buyers, NHL. I mean, that's the reason why you're here and the other markets are here. It's because of the other streams of revenue that, are just not there yet in hockey. Adding 2 more games for they had 84 games a few years ago. It's way too much already.
Yes.
Again, I'm also a hard no on that.
What do you think of their obsession with trying to manufacture rivalries? They seem to be really obsessed with it. I feel like rivalries just happen. You can't force a rivalry, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I do get some of the geographic nature where, you might want to get a few more games, but you know what? Figure it out. Move the schedule around. Change things up. Have a number of games where maybe, you can, add a few more outside of the division or even conference that makes sense. We don't need more regular season NHL games. That is one take I will stand behind, and I'm sure it will be continued for a long time. I don't know why I'm frozen.
Yeah. Oh, you are frozen. Sorry. I was surprised, Huss, that the Jets only played Dallas 3 games. Like, you're in the same division. You have this stupid playoff format, which is so focused on division, and they're only playing like their biggest division rival 3 games. Like, just have no one wants that. Just have a real playoff system, 1 to 8, a real point system.
It's basically just the conference. I mean, we played Vegas 3 times this year. I mean, I don't get that where, there's no real difference between the two. I'm sure some of the division matchups, you get the extra games in the 4, but they can try and manufacture whatever you want. It all comes from great playoff series. And I guess that's why they're forcing the playoffs to go through the divisions. I know your take on that.
It's terrible.
I agree. 1 to 8, old school. You get some cool matchups that you might not normally get. And it's the most fair to the teams that earn their seed through the regular season, which we've already mentioned is too damn long to begin with.
Okay, one other thing. A lot of people brought this up in chat. You see TSN showing the game lines?
Wow.
On the broadcast. So they have, beginning of the game, they're going through all the lines. Here are the lines that they showed, and I'm not going to dump on anyone. I will give my take on how this could happen. Perfetti Scheifele Wheeler, Connor Dubois Lewis, as in Trevor Lewis, who hasn't played on the Jets in 2 years. Baron Lowry, Drew Stafford, who hasn't played on the Jets like even longer. Okay, this one, Nick Patan, Patrice Cormier, Sam Gagne. This is like a Jets like all-time team. Okay, Morrissey, Party. Stuart Postma, Sandberg, Beaulieu. So this isn't even like last year's Jets team. It's like
these
mix.
Are just guys that have worn those numbers in the past at some point.
Oh, is that what it is?
Well, yeah. Trevor Lewis was in for Esimont. He was 23. Adam Party was Dylan DeMello. They were number 2. I mean, those were those guys. So I'm not sure whether they just put in the numbers and then it went to the first guy that wore that number or something. I mean, who was Drew Stafford as 12? That's Jansen Harkins.
Yeah. Oh, you nailed it. You got that's the right theory. Well, I assumed that someone had like a template and they didn't hit save, but I think there's something with the numbers that got messed up. Yeah, you're right. And maybe someone linked to something weird, but everyone was laughing at TSN on social media. But I think your theories, I'm not going to dump on it. I screw up on this show every day, Huss. So I don't have the right to dump on any broadcast. So I can't.
We solved the mystery of why those names were in for the name, just because they were that number before. As to how it happened, I have no idea. All right, let's get marbles going. And while we do this,
Patan, Cormier.
I saw that afterwards. Just
because Patan's Gus and Cormier, who's 28 now.
Patan is Stenny.
Stenny.
Big Sten.
Big Sten. So.
All right, we're going to close things up. What about this new reality show?
Oh, the new okay, this one is taking. Have you heard about this one? It's trending on Twitter.
I saw it on the note, and then I saw it trending. And listen, MILF Manor.
MILF Manor.
That is like the ultimate clickbait title. I watched the theme for it, and I mean, I'm speechless. We all know where this is going if you've seen it too, right? They bring on these women who want to hook up with younger men, and the men on the island are going to be their sons.
You think that's the... Well, okay, here's...
100%.
MILF Manor on TLC, January 15. It says, 5.5 million views on Twitter. Welcome to MILF Manor. 8 hot moms leave home for the chance to find love with men half their age, but they're greeted with a shocking twist. So that's MILF Manor. Are you going to tune in? You want to see the twist?
I mean, I probably won't. I'll probably see a couple clips on Twitter, much like I do most reality shows, and go, oh my God, this is stupid. And then, I mean, listen, I don't know if they have... Listen, there's a few ways you can get people to tune in, and maybe I'll get sucked into it. But at this point, like, I don't have my PVR set for the debut of MILF Manor right now, if that's what you're asking.
I will say it reminds me of my favorite reality show from around 2005, Average Joe 2, where it was like model was, or a bunch of like regular guys were vying for the attention of a model. And it was one of the best reality shows of all time, Average Joe 2. So I don't know, like,
all reality shows are fake to begin with, so that's once I realized that, it sort of lost a little bit. But should do a reality show about the marble race, the Tournament of Champions, and everyone that's qualified and everyone that's got ready to go. See I know the I'm done with TV. What is happening? You're gonna say yes to the dress. By the way, the funniest part, we'll get to the marbles, but this MILF Manor thing, by far the most hilarious thing about the entire operation of a reality show called MILF Manor is the fact that it is on a station, TLC. You know what TLC stands for?
It's just TLC. It doesn't stand for anything.
The Learning Channel. So if you want to learn about MILFs, you're in luck coming 2023 to a television near you.
Yeah, I think it's just like it's used to be the Learning Channel, right?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a lot of learning anymore, but we're going to loot in. All right, let's do this. Bring back MXC, for crying out loud. Cabillas, amen to that. The greatest show, the greatest real reality show in television history. Shout out to Kenny Blankenship. And who's the other guy? Kenny Blankenship. Yes, Guy Ledouche. All right. Do we have a tune to hit? Oh my God. Again, champion race qualifier Tristan Rivers music with all the karma, because we're doing 12 days of marbles and we keep getting gifts day after day from Tristan and Candace. Before we drop these marbles to finish off another week, let's hear what TRM has for us today.
It's Friday, another years gone by. You deserve to treat yourself, maybe an ice cream cake or a bottle of rye. No day in to life you can't deny. Why use effort even for pleasure? You find luck to cry. You sign a new marble race. Nose to separate best to worst. Marble race. Just type marbles with the punctuation first. Marble race. Don't spam or you will suffer. Oh, let's pay. Marble race. You will mark before it's too late.
Oh, another beauty. The Green Day version of the WST Marbles theme by the one and only Tristan Rivers Music. That was that was awesome, and he absolutely nailed it, Reem.
That was really good. I love the harmonies. A lot of people got that one inch. I think Derek Schmidt might have been first, but that was really really well done.
Right off the bat. All right, Friday, we got a hoodie on the line, and we've got our top three marbles get qualified into the December 30th race, and I'll add in a pair of tickets for the Moose on the weekend. We got the Sunday afternoon game, December 18th, I believe. I should actually double check this and make sure which days I have. But anyways, we've got two pairs of Moose tickets. Not sure whether it's Saturday or Sunday. So if you finish second or third, you'll send us your contact info to get in for that. And if you can make the game, we'll send you a pair of tickets for the game. But wow, a new record, 268 marbles today, Reem.
Yeah.
I hope the computer doesn't shut down.
And there's a lot of people in here, Huss, who maybe only come Fridays and don't realize, and they're like, oh, a new marble theme? They don't realize we've had a different one every day, a different, style of music. So shout out to Tristan. Like, that's incredible.
Shout out to Tristan and shout out to Consolidated Supply, because as I mentioned, It's not just the regular marble race. This is race number 7. We started last Thursday. We've done a marble race every day. We're going to do one every day next week, and the top 3 marbles qualify for the championship race in the Tournament of Champions, December 30th. And Consolidated Supplies giving us a pair of Bomber 2023 season tickets to give to the winners. So if you have missed the previous races, 2:45 every day next week, we'll open up registration. Do not miss it. All right, race number 7. Where are we cracking today, Reem?
I don't know. Should we hit Shattered Dreams, or
is that the Gold Dust themed
I don't know,
race?
Shattered Dreams, or should I hit Temple of Steve? I don't remember Temple of Steve.
I think the Temple of Steve was a good one, actually.
Okay, I'll do Temple. 268 marble.
Wow.
I guess people want me to put the themes on our website or something.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, well, maybe we'll put together a bit of a compilation on the YouTube channel.
I'll have to do something, I think.
All right. Well, everyone's here. Welcome, gang. Whether you've been with us for the whole show, whether you're a podcast listener just popping in. Normally we get going a little bit earlier, but I don't know. We got sidetracked a little bit the minute MILF Manor got mentioned. Anyways,
MILF Manor.
Heading into the weekend. Big win for the Jets last night. People in a good mood, and 3 people are going to be in an even better mood qualifying for the TOC, the Tournament of Champions Finals on December 30th. Michael Remis, let's get to the weekend and drop the marbles. Here we are in the Temple of Steve. We have done this one before. Ooh, a nice winter background too in the temple. And this really does seem like the start is very, very important. You want to get down. It doesn't seem like anyone's sort of having a big lead right now. I see MC Stormy looking pretty good. Who will get down first? All right, Jamaican Me Crazy, Drusman, Wilf's World, looking pretty good so far. Look at this. Here it is, the Temple of Steam. But yeah, Jamaican Me Crazy looking good so far. First place, I see Daryl Morosky, Jeremy Nickerson in the mix. Now we got a pretty good idea right here. Yeah, Drusman and Wilf's World, but Jamaican Me Crazy is first. Mike Rogers looking pretty good. There's Running Man in the mix. Bobby B. Paul Carr. Paul Carr's had a couple close calls. Mike Rogers looking pretty good right now. He got stopped by this. Oh, Bobby B going through. This is nice. He's into this little corkscrew here. I think it might be. Well, this is. I don't know about this view here, Reem.
There's too many. It's crazy
exactly.
here.
There's just too many marbles.
I don't know where to go.
Is wild. Okay, I'm thinking Jeremy Nickerson and Bobby B right now are in. But we've got another. Oh no, Jeremy got through.
Oh,
but so did Dan Jets fan. Dan Jets fan, Jamaica Me Crazy, Bobby B. All in the mix right now. Robbie B. Is that Kabilis? Kabilis is in fourth right now. A fan favorite in the chat. Can Kabilis make it happen? Dan Jets fan. Bobby B. Oh, this is the one where you can go in or go out. Oh, Dan Jets fan, no. Who's it going to be? Bobby B. Russ Lowen, who's next? Jeremy Nickerson. Oh, the Temple of Steve. Wow. Oh, that is awesome. We may have to use that one again for one of the other qualifiers next week.
That was nuts. We got to use that again.
Amazing. And you could have the best race. Kabilis just got sort of stuck up on there. Never made it through. Oh, man. So Bobby B, congratulations. You're in, and send us an email. As long as I have your size, we'll hook you up with a hoodie from our friends at Canadian Club. And Russ Lowen and Jeremy Nickerson, congratulations. You're in for the Tournament of Champions. Send us an email, winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com, just with your email, phone number. Just get us your deets. And let me know if you want to go to the Moose game on the weekend. And if you have a preferred date, not sure if I've got them for both games, but if you do want to go to the game, we'll fire you off a pair of tickets. 2:00 starts for the Moose, both Saturday and Sunday. Tomorrow's the Teddy Bear Toss. Sunday is the holiday game where Santa's going to be in the house. Busy guy, as Dan Fink told us, but always making room for an afternoon matinee at Canada Life Center for the Manitoba Moose. Man, Remo, this has been such a fun week doing the marble race every day. I'm actually really fired up for next week heading into the holidays.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of familiar names here in the finals of the Marbles Tournament of Champions, so I'll add these to the list. A lot of conflicting opinions. BA Split says, best track ever, LOL. Gregory Liverpool says, no, we don't. Hudson Remus, this should be an illegal track.
Oh, what a classic GFL take to finish up.
So,
to finish up. Hey,
maybe if you went the wrong way and didn't land on the pod at the end, yeah, you probably aren't happy with this track.
Oh, geez. Hey, go up again. Can you go back up to the top 10 again? Was said, oh, yeah, hey, Honor. Jet Oil Tom there, Styles T, Pie Boy. What a week Pie Boy's had. Winning the AEW Beat the Box Office tickets. And thanks again for that super chat, Pie Boy. That was really cool of you. Marshall Karan, what up, Marshall? Lyndon Radichenka. Lyndon. Saw Lyndon at the game back in 310 on Tuesday night. And then Kabilis. Oh, the heartbreak. The heartbreak for Big Jeff Kabilis. I know he's going to AEW as well. By the way, speaking of AEW, don't want to promise anything, but I think a certain incredible international superstar that also happens to be from Winnipeg that loves DJ's Pizza and might in fact be on that AEW card on March 14th is going to be joining us next week as early as Monday. So definitely check out the show. But I mean, Monday, in addition, we'll have lots to get to coming out of the weekend with the Jets in Vancouver and Minnesota, all the NFL action, Moose playing ice and all that. Do not miss it. Thanks again to all the sponsors for making us a part of, or for the support that they give us to make this happen every day. And of course, all of you for joining us, whether you're on the podcast, whether you just popped in for the marble race, great to see you. Marbles all next week, 5 more qualifying races for the Tournament of Champions. Join us beginning on Monday. We'll be live at 1 p.m. right here on YouTube, folks. Have a great weekend. Don't drink and drive. Have a safe one, but enjoy yourself. It's going to be a fun one. And we'll see you Monday afternoon right here on WST.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.